We're going to give us a few minutes here. We do have a quorum. And while we are waiting, I am going to go ahead and have all of the commissioners introduce themselves. We'll go in order. 3D01.
Chuck Elkins from Wesley House.
I am Trisha Duncan. I'm with 3D02. I am in Spring Valley, Kent Palisades. 3D03. Is Clinton with us? Commissioner Cologne Roosevelt is not feeling well, so he is not here today, but he is the commissioner for the other half of Spring Valley and parts of Kent also. 3D04.
Yeah, I'm Jeremy Joseph. I'm the commissioner for the western part of the Palisades and part of Key School, up to Key School.
I'm Bernie Horn. I'm the commissioner for the area in downtown Palisades, basically from the reservoir up to Arizona, but only on certain sides of the street.
And then Commissioner Nowak may be joining us later unless she is on. Well, we'll have to monitor that. We do have a quorum. Commissioner Simple.
My name is JP Simkwitz and I represent ANC3D07, which is Foxhall Village, Colony Hill.
Thank you. Well, the meeting has officially started. Our first item on the agenda is to approve the agenda. I move to approve the agenda that was posted on the website.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
That was unanimous. I believe I saw Officer McElwee on. If we could promote him.
Hi.
We always start off with it. Hello, how are you?
I
Give
am
us
good.
a second so that we can spotlight you.
Mr. McElwee, if you're able to turn your camera on, there we go.
Fantastic. Hello, how are you?
Good evening, commissioners, and good evening to all the participants out there. And thank you for having us again, as always. And I'm ready to start off with our PSA 205 crime report for the last 30 days. First of all, can you hear me okay?
Perfectly.
All right, I'm on a new computer setup here, so a better one, I hope, than the last one I was on. We had 13 reported offenses for the last 30 days. One was a sexual abuse case, which is a personal case. The victim and the person know each other. I will not touch on that, but we did have one of those. We had one burglary, 2 stolen autos, 5 theft from autos, and 4 thefts. The burglary occurred on May 27th at approximately 9:29 p.m. from the 4800 block of Indian Lane. R1, who is the reporting person, stated that she heard footsteps in her kitchen area. When she went to investigate, she observed feet of an unknown subject running up the stairwell. MPD was called and we immediately responded. MPD conducted a walkthrough check of the home and discovered a broken window pane that led into the kitchen. The individual had fled the scene prior to our arrival. There were a few dresser drawers discovered open. However, nothing had appeared to be taken. Motor vehicle theft occurred between May 20th and May 21st from the 1400 block of Foxhall Road. Vehicle was stolen from the driveway behind the home. Stolen was a white 2021 Acura RDX with DC tags. Our second motor vehicle that was stolen occurred between May 19th at 8 p.m. and May 20th at 8 a.m. from the 5100 block of 52nd Street. This vehicle was also stolen from the driveway. The vehicle was a blue 2015 BMW F528i with unknown Maryland tags. The keys were left inside this vehicle. The theft from automobiles, I'm just going to run down real quick. June 2nd at 2 p.m., from the 4,000 block of 51st Street. Someone broke out a window and removed the laptop. Also within that same time frame, also on the 4,000 block of 51st Street, another laptop was stolen from a parked vehicle when they pried open the vent window to gain access. May 25th at 11 a.m., 5,000 block of Upton Street, unknown persons entered an unlocked vehicle and removed a bag that contained personal items such as documents, a driver's license, personal checks, and $400 of US currency. Also within the 5,000 block of Upton Street, on May 9th, an unknown person broke out a window of a 2018 Honda and stole a backpack that contained a wallet. June 2nd, between 1:45 p.m. and 3:30 p.m., within the 4900 block of MacArthur Boulevard, an unknown person broke out the window of a vehicle and stole the airbag. Just a reminder, please lock your vehicles and remove all valuables out of plain view. Please report anyone suspicious, like vehicles or persons, to 911. The thefts, real quick, 4200 Fordham Street, May 18th, around 5 a.m. A garage door was left unlocked and an unknown person entered the vehicle, parked inside the garage, and stole a backpack. 3040 Idaho Avenue on May 25th, someone stole a bank card. 4900 block of Hawthorne Lane on January 9th, or between January 9th and May 9th, someone stole some backyard items. Finally, as far as the thefts go, we had another CVS theft occur at 4859 MacArthur Boulevard on May 10th at approximately 5:32 p.m. 3 black males described as juveniles entered the store and ran directly to the soap aisle, where they removed $200 worth of soap and placed them into plastic containers. They then fled the store. One of the individuals then ran back into the store, went behind the counter, and stole the cash register. They then fled the scene in a white Kia Soul with DC tags, GJ1135, which were reported stolen. MPD is working closely with the members of the CVS Crime Prevention Corporate Security Team with preventive and proactive efforts, for which I can't really discuss so that we don't jeopardize our investigation in this matter. I can say this: CVS has deployed a private security guard at the store as a deterrent, and that guard is there while they're open. Also, the Metropolitan Police Department is in the process of beginning a QR scan code bar program. Our officers in the past have been conducting walk-in security checks of stores and businesses. And during that time, we were signing security logbooks. Now we are changing over to where an officer will make a routine security check into the store, and he or she will scan the QR code. The MPD will be able to monitor how and when and what times the officers are conducting these checks. Our CVS and Walgreens stores within PSA 205 are willing to participate with this program as soon as it kicks off. I'll be real quick with our traffic report, and then I'll be happy to take some questions. Extra traffic enforcement locations last month, 4500 Macomb Street. We received a complaint from the neighbors about do not enter during Monday through Friday, 0700 hours and 9:30 a.m. hours. I did go out there 3 times and I wrote 49 tickets. Foxhole and Reservoir Road, drivers proceeding straight southbound on Foxhole Road in a left turn only lane, 17 tickets were issued. Also, DDOT was kind enough to repaint the road arrows and road lines. So that's all new if you haven't been out that way. That helps us out for enforcement. And finally, the cut throughs in the evening hours to avoid MacArthur Boulevard and Arizona Avenue, where they cut through Sherrier Place, Potomac, Carolina, and Dorset. Myself and my colleagues were out there and we wrote 26 tickets. We're going to continue to monitor that situation out there. because of the complaints and because it is a problem. And people that are using that area do it every day. And if we crack down on it, it should get better and improve out there. One final thing, it was brought to our attention about, there was we are aware of an incident back in April concerning an individual who was disorderly at the MacArthur High School field. This investigation over there is still ongoing. We do know who the individual is, and we ID'd him. Lieutenant Pongratz will have an MPD officer provide special attention at the MacArthur High School both this Saturday and Sunday during these soccer events to provide a deterrent and for high visibility should this individual return to the soccer field. With that said, I'm happy to take any questions, concerns, or complaints.
Thank you so much. One second, I want to ask Matthew Barclay, is Commander Branch attending here over Zoom, or will he be coming here in person?
He was in the parking lot as of like 5 minutes ago, and I sent him the directions to get in. But I think he's having trouble, so I might call him and ask him to attend via Zoom on his phone or something.
I'll okay. Do we have any hands raised for questions? Oh yeah. Oh, Commissioner Tippett, there you go.
I have a quick question. I got an email on that MacArthur High School problem. Did the individual commit a crime, or was he just disorderly?
The crime is being investigated, and as I said, it's ongoing, and he is on our radar. I don't know all the particulars. I'm gonna call Commander and where are you? Are you in the same room that you were in last time?
Yes.
Down there?
Yes.
All right. It's kind of
Commissioner Joseph just went out to find him.
Okay.
The final question is, there was some kind of disturbance at Jackson Reed High School involving a knife. Do you know anything about a knife incident?
Do you know the date? I believe there was one 2 Fridays ago.
Yeah.
There was an incident up there involving an altercation. I actually responded up there, and we closed down the roadway while everything was investigated. I don't know of any injuries or anything about it, but something did occur up there, and we did address it.
Were there any arrests made?
I don't know off the top of my head. I can get back to you on that,
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner JP. You're welcome.
I would like to say one thing about the MacArthur field, because I read the email from about him disrupting the soccer. He had 3 Dalmatians, 2 of them died in a house fire, and the other one is in the hospital. So I don't know if he only went there with his dogs and that's what made him so angry. But if he stays away for a while, that may be why, but I don't know. I know people who know him.
Yeah, that's correct. There was unfortunately a devastating fire at an apartment building on MacArthur, and 2 of the dogs perished, unfortunately. But yes, you're accurate on that, Commissioner Duncan.
Jeremy was doing the chat. Excuse me. Someone is asking,
I'm gonna go grab my phone real quick.
what are the typical ticket fines? Oh, does anyone know how much it costs to turn in one of those no turns?
For example, like at Reservoir and Foxhall.
I think if you turn on Macomb or Sherrier when you're not supposed to.
It's a $100 fine, and there are points attached to that.
There don't seem to be any other questions. Thank you. That was very thorough. And
I'm going to remain on mute, and I'll remain here while the commander's there as well.
here he is, Commander Branch.
Yeah, I'll do guys.
Thank you for coming.
Chairperson, would you like to advance him in the agenda? So we
He's
can-
going next. So we are moving or skipping around a little bit. Commander Branch is here. He is going to be talking about very quickly the new crime legislation that the mayor has put forward and take it away. Thank you so much, and we'll get you out here as soon as possible.
Yes, I appreciate it. My apologies to everyone. Unfortunately, I had an officer who was killed in a motorcycle accident a couple hours ago. So I've been dealing with that situation, dealing with the officer, the family support team. I'm trying to make sure that the family is in good health and everything is fine with them, but also most importantly as well, is the officers that died this year. So I have to go and address them in the roll call in a very short time. So I apologize for that. Yes, I'll just talk about the Safer Stronger Act, as it reads, the legislation. This basically enhances the violent crimes and that victimize or target vulnerable residents with physical or mental impairments, as well as expanding protections for transient and for hire vehicle employees, transient passengers, and people of rec centers. Enhanced protections for domestic violence survivors. Basically, people who've been victim of strangulation. This would be a felony, what they're proposing. It strengthens provisions that will allow individuals to petition for early release to ensure the balance that their voices are heard, the community voices are heard as well, for people who are potentially going to be released. It increases reimbursement for the district's popular private security camera system. It's in the program. It also strengthens the safety by increasing the network of cameras available within the city. As you guys may know, we use these cameras. They're very helpful for us for solving crimes. We track these individuals that may have a mask on here, but we'll backtrack as far as we need to go. And at some point, hopefully we'll find some type of identifying information, whether it's their face, what have you. So those are very important for us, the citizens who have those. We appreciate that. It also aids in helping us to get DNA samples earlier in the process for first-degree sexual offenses. And, after the probable cause hearing, this is very important for us as well, because as you know, these people, suspects who commit these types of crimes, usually they're serial, it's not usually their first crime. So this allows us to put that information in our CODIS database so that we can match that DNA against other crimes or open cases throughout not only here in the city, but throughout the country. That's very, very valuable for us and helping us to fight crime. Trying to think here. Yeah, I think that's pretty much the gist of it. It also increases penalties for illegal gun possession. As you know, we're having a major issue with all the gun violence in the city. I'm sure you guys see the news often, and we definitely want to strengthen those for those who try to sell guns as well. We're trying to increase that penalty by 1.5 times, which is allowable for the maximum. That's similar to something that we had at the schools. Penalty of 1.5 times the maximum rate. It doesn't say that you will, it says you may. So that gives the judge options. So the thing about us as far as fighting crime, it's always good to have options. It's always good to have things in your toolbox that we can use. And these enhanced penalties, I think, will be a step in the right direction for us to assist with solving these crimes, holding people accountable. And also at some point, believe it or not, we use these penalties to try to get cooperators as well to solve other crimes. So that's pretty much the gist of it. I apologize, guys. I'm kind of running around with shaking my head cut off right now.
That is fine. I am going to, thank you so much again for coming.
Yes.
I am going to open it up for questions. Commissioner Smith?
I talked to you on the phone the other day.
Yes, thank you, sir.
Thank you for coming. I'm sorry to hear about your officer. As you know, I'm introducing a resolution that just says we support Mayor Balliner's initiative. I don't want to put words in anybody's mouth, but there's some questions that some of the commissioners have had, and I hope to summarize them. One, what kind of outreach did the mayor undertake to get everybody in the city involved in this initiative?
Honestly, that I don't have an answer to. I don't know if someone's in the mayor's office that's on the call, they can kind of address that. I don't know what type of outreach, but I know there was definitely some,
Okay.
but I don't know to what extent.
And can you go into your background and tell me your personal opinions about this bill? Where you grew up, how long you've been an officer?
Okay, well, I've been an officer for 31 years. I grew up here in Washington, D.C. I grew up in the 7th district. As most of you know, I just was transferred from the 7th district here to the 2nd district. And they're polar opposites, not only as far as geography on opposite sides of the city, but also crime-wise as well. Here we have the least amount of homicides in the city. Last year, I believe we had 7. There I had 72. So we led the city, unfortunately. And over there, unfortunately, I would say literally every other day, someone was getting shot. It was clockwork. It was, I'm telling you, it was crazy. Calls all through the night. Grew up, like I said, over there, attended Blue High School. So I'm a homegrown resident here. And as far as this bill, I think it's definitely a step in the right direction. I think the thing is, in my opinion, this is just my opinion speaking, is that we have to have accountability, you know, for anything. I'm held accountable. I'm being held accountable right now. The mayor said accountable. You can vote her in, vote her out, council members, ANCs, right? And you have to have accountability for your actions. And in my opinion, I think from my experience from all these years of being not only in the city, growing up in the city, growing up in a rough area like that, it's all about accountability, you know, and we have to give a deterrent for these crimes. If people are under the impression that they can just do whatever without any consequences, then, you know, this happens. And I'm not proposing that we put people in jail forever. Trust me, that's not my position here at all. But I do believe that violent offenders need to be taken off the street. This also gives the judges more latitude, and I don't want to butcher the legislation where it is now, but it's my understanding that judges now, before they release someone, they have a probable cause hearing, and if they have a preponderance of evidence at the time that maybe the person will be released, then they have to err on the side of release instead of detaining these individuals. As a result of that, we have, I believe, what I was quoted today, 55 people who are currently waiting trial for homicide that are still on the street. Right? I mean, think about that. It's about 55 people, and that's potential 55 victims of homicide. A lot of times these areas, they know who committed these crimes, you know, against their family members, and they're trying to gun for these people. So they may become a victim of a crime, of a homicide, or vice versa. They may defend themselves against someone else. So that, of course, affects us as well. We have to have the ability, or have the judges to have the ability to detain these people if they feel that they're threats to society. We just can't get people to free pass, in my opinion.
There have been reports in the news that the US Attorney's Office is not prosecuting a lot of crimes. And to your point, if our biggest crime deterrent is the certainty of being caught and punished, is there anything that we can do to address that? I mean, unfortunately, DC we don't have control over our justice system unless it's under juvenile court. Are there things in this legislation that can address that? Do we have any recourse in that regard?
Nothing in specific legislation that I read, but as far as the community, I mean, just making your voices heard. You know, like I said, I'm not a big believer in that everyone has to be arrested for everything, or has to be put in jail for every single offense. I mean, I believe in second chances, I really do. I met a lot of great people in the 7th district who were former convicts. We turned their lives around, and you know, sometimes prison, unfortunately, was that avenue for them. They needed that, and some of them actually even tell me, believe it or not, prison saved their lives. You know, they were able to really reflect and change themselves. You know, but sometimes you have to do that. You know, like I said, I don't propose it for everything, but we definitely have to have that. You know, I kind of look at us as the police department as a dog, and if we don't have teeth, you know, which the prosecutor's office gives us teeth, then we're a toothless dog. You know, I've been on situations in the 7th district where we have kids that are arrested with a gun, and you know what they say? They laugh and tell their friends, "Oh, don't worry, I'll be out tomorrow. I'll be out tomorrow." And guess what?
They're out tomorrow.
They're out tomorrow. You know, so I think that we have to have a deterrent. We have to hold them accountable. Like I said, we hold everyone else accountable, and we can't be afraid of that. You know, I mean, even our own children, we have to hold them accountable, right? We tell the kids, "Hey, don't do this, don't do that. You know, go to your room." And if they're not getting it at home, I think that's where it starts. And unfortunately, someone else has to deal with it, you know, and that's us.
Are there any comments? Does anyone else have any questions? Thank you so much. I know it was a long way to get out
Yeah,
here.
so sorry, and I've really
Right.
been flustered, like I said, you can imagine. Just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
officer staff and family support services and the family of the victim and the officer, so my apologies. I appreciate the time. If you have any questions or concerns, please feel free to email me, anyone. My email is John, that's JOHN .BRANCH@dc.gov. I'm more than welcome to discuss this matter further. I know everyone has different opinions, and I totally get that as well, you know. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Commander. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you all for letting us switch around a little bit there. I see Commissioner Nowak has joined us. Thank you very much. I'm going to try and change the camera here a little bit as we move on. Matthew Barclay, our resident mocher. We could get you started. Hello.
How are y'all doing?
Good.
I am dying.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Stay safe, everybody. Department of Energy and Environment, Homeland Security and Emergency Management, Department of Health has issued a code red for the air quality with fires from Canada and the smoke coming down our way. I'll put more information in the chat after I get through all this. Also, happy Pride Month. There will be a link in the chat with all of the upcoming Pride events through the Mayor's Office of LGBTQ Affairs. Also, this Saturday will be the Capitol Pride Parade, and you can join Mayor Bowser and myself. I will be carrying the banner. I'm excited about that. And my first Pride Parade, actually, coming from South Carolina, I didn't really go to Pride Parades, but now I am here and I go to Pride Parades. It's awesome. And the sequence of events will I'll drop in the chat with the link to the Eventbrite. Also, Mayor Bowser is interested in your input for the next DC MPD police chief. There's going to be a telephone town hall, and there will also be a survey that you can give input for what you believe that the top priorities for the next police chief should be, and then also what he or she should focus on. Also, there is an age-friendly DC listening session on Monday, June 12th from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. Myself, Mokers, have been tasked with finding 12 people of any age to complete a pre-survey and engage in a 2-hour-long listening session to discuss life after COVID and how DC become a more age-friendly and aging gracefully city in relation to COVID and how we have responded to COVID. So help me out with that. I have 4 people that are confirmed. I need 8 more. So please help me. Monday, 10 to 12. Also, the fiscal 2024 budget has been unanimously approved. This is the 28th consecutive balanced budget. The mayor has a statement. I'll drop it in the chat. Not gonna read all that, it's pretty long. Also, it's summer pool season. It kicked off May 26th, and the pools will be open from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. and will operate on a weekend only schedule through Sunday, June 25th. Starting Monday, June 26th, all outdoor pools will operate on individual summer schedules 6 days a week. You'll have more information at the link that'll be in the chat. Also, 16 spray parks are open daily from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. throughout the summer. Also, the district has announced new menstrual health education standards for DC public and charter schools. I will put more information in the chat. Also, Mayor Bowser launched her downtown action plan. There will be a monthly meeting on June 15th, hosted by the Leadership Group Steering Committee. And we hope at 2 p.m. at Conrad, 950 New York Avenue Northwest. And there's an Eventbrite link that you can join that as well. DOEE has a new director, Richard Jackson. The press release will be in the chat. Also, Mokers has a new director, Richard Livingston. So I'm also excited about that. There will there's one more DPR walking club, June 10th at the Marvin Gaye Park. Link will be in the chat. And then there will be also 2 other things. You can reach out to Octo for help with tech services. I'll put that in the chat. And then also DPW has a Helping Hands program that you can borrow various tools to help clean up your communities. So that's all I have for today. Thank you guys. And thank you for being flexible with community.
Yeah, no problem at all. I'm going to call in Commissioner Nowak and then you're next.
Hey, Matthew, thanks for your update. When you mentioned the pools opening for summer, it prompts me to ask about our favorite pool topic. You're smiling, so you know that I'm going to ask about Wilson Pool, and I'll just quickly relate a somewhat frustrating conversation I had with a representative from DPR. I don't blame him. I feel like he's as much in the dark as the rest of us are. And my impression was there is no one taking a citywide leadership role in coordinating the efforts of multiple agencies that need, DPR, DOH, General Services. Can you speak to what the mayor's office is doing to get Wilson Pool open sooner than later?
I know that DGS is working on it. It has something to do with the HVAC system, which I mentioned a couple meetings ago. Speak to what we are doing multi-agency. This is
what I would say is I'm not actually expecting the answer today, but I do want to register with the mayor that each agency, their sort of response, their canned response is we want to open in a safe manner. Of course we do. The pool has been closed since February. There is no timeline that has been published when it will be reopened. There's been no transparency into the process. We don't know if they're 5% complete or 95% complete. Nobody has been able to provide me with a list of tasks that must be completed or milestones that have to be checked off before the pool can be reopened. And as I said, I'm not convinced that someone is managing the interaction between multiple agencies who are involved in this. So if you could take that back to the mayor's office and to your liaisons to those departments, that would be helpful. One of the comments was, Councilmember Fruman is also chasing this and with no more success than we're getting. So clearly we want an opening, but knowledge in the meantime would be a good interim step.
That is very much noted.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Simkowitz?
Hi, Mr. Barclay. Thanks for coming today. There was a question that I had about the mayor's outreach regarding the crime act that she has. Can you tell me a little bit about how she came up with the act? What action she took to go to communities that were around the city, not just here, and what actions led to this?
So back in, I think it was January, maybe January, February, there was an ANC community meeting, also other people. It got out to the press, so a lot of people came to this other than ANCs. And so that conversation prompted a lot of this. Also, there was a public safety and justice summit with all of the stakeholders within, like the bids, the public safety professionals, lawyers, like OAG, all of those groups of people came together and did a brainstorm session. I believe that was May, I think last month. And so, we are experiencing increases in crime, specifically with juveniles and other groups of people. So, this has been a month-long, multiple month-long process of community input, and we engage, MOCRs engage as well with the community on public safety issues almost every day, and we give feedback to leadership as well.
And the January meeting that you referred to was the one out in Deanwood that I came to.
Yeah, that was Yep.
Do you know how many commissioners attended that? Was it? I think it was.
I think it was over. It was over 100.
And they were from all around the city.
Yes.
Thank you.
Big presences from 4, 7, 8, 5, 1.
I think Ward 3, we didn't do too well. I might have been the only one there.
There were you, Commissioner Gore, Goslin, Zeldin, Sherman, Rohin. Oh, what's his last name?
We know Rohan.
Yeah. Gosh. And I think that's all. Oh, Diego Carney as well.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Oh, and Trisha and oh no, that was a budget engagement form.
I
Never mind, sorry.
couldn't read it. I made it to the budget meeting. I don't see any other questions or comments in the chat. Thank you so much. I hope you feel better. I know the smog is killing you, so stay safe.
I look terrible.
It hides on the Zoom. All right, thank you. Next, representative from Matt Freeman's office, Stephen, last name? Palmer, thank you. I think he's
Hi, Commissioner,
here.
thanks so much. I'm here. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you perfectly. Thank you.
Great. Well, I'm Stephen Palmer, Councilmember Freeman's Legislative Director. A few quick updates from our team. I'll drop a few things in the chat for you all. Most importantly, our constituent services form. If you have any requests for our constituent services team dealing with any government agency, you can send a request there. That's going to be mattfreemanward3.com/constituent-service, but I'll put that in the chat. And if you want to make any other comments, I'll drop our general link, that's mattfreemanward3.com, to sign up for the council members' newsletters, to put a legislative suggestion in, and see what's going on. A few updates from the council member's office. The DC Pride Parade is this Saturday from 3 to 7. Councilmember Freeman and his staff, some of the staff, I'm out of town for a wedding, unfortunately, but we'll be there throwing beads, walking with the amazing brass band Crush Funk. I'll drop a link in the chat for more information. To touch on Commissioner Nowak's favorite subject, the Wilson Aquatic Center. About 2 weeks ago, on May 19th, Councilmember Freeman joined his colleagues Janice Lewis George, Trayon White, and Brianna Doe in writing a letter to the directors of DGS and DPR about the closures of the Wilson Aquatic Center and the Marie Reed Aquatic Center. We asked for a multitude of things and requested a response by May 31st. We have yet to receive a response from the agencies, unfortunately, at least as of a few days ago. I haven't heard anything on it lately. Councilmember met with the directors of DPR and DGS at the Wilson Aquatic Center last week. Between that meeting and a response to the letter, we should have answers to share with the community soon, which I know our constituent services team is also anxiously awaiting that saga to be over, and to have the pool open. Finally, WMATA has launched a new initiative, the Better Bus Network Redesign, as I know you all know, to revitalize bus service for the region. WMATA has extended the deadline for community input, in part based on a request by Councilmember Freeman. The deadline is on June 18th for public comment. I'll drop some of the links to the chat there. Otherwise, at the Wilson Building, it is, as Matthew mentioned, the budget is basically done. Luckily, all the dollars and cents have been squared away. There's one last vote on Tuesday the 13th on the Budget Support Act. That doesn't move any of the dollars around. It's kind of the last thing we have to do before we can send the budget off entirely and be fully done with it, which I'm looking forward to as well. And from there, we are kind of in legislative mode until recess begins mid-July, and then continue with the legislative season as it is in the fall. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'll drop my email in the chat as well for the commission's use.
We appreciate you coming. Do any commissioners have any questions for Mr. Palmer? Are there any questions or comments? in the chat? Thank you so much. You're obviously welcome to stay, or, you know, well, we've got some official business, some of it very interesting. Is there a representative from DDOT? Is Christian Pinheiro here this evening? I don't think they have any updates for us. Okay, so we are moving on. Community updates. American University is on the agenda. If Corey Peterson is here and would like to talk about something other than the Meltzer Center, you're welcome to speak.
Well, I appreciate that, Chair Duncan. The only thing I would say is that we do have our annual American University Town Hall CLC meeting, which is coming up on June 20th. I'll drop a link to it in the chat. So if anybody would like to attend, it'll be held on AU's campus from 6 to 8 in Constitution Hall. There'll be parking there in the East Campus parking lot. And I'll drop that in the chat so folks can RSVP.
Thank you.
And that's all I've got. And then I'll be back later to talk about Meltzer.
And just to add to that, Madam Chairman, I think the president of American University will be at the town hall. Is that right, Corey?
That's correct. It's a town hall with our university president.
Great. I will be attending that. Is there anyone here from Georgetown University who would like to say something? Just raise your hand. We will be able to find you. And I don't believe Wesley Seminary will be speaking tonight. Okay. Moving on, are there any other civic groups or associations that would like to speak about something that is not on the agenda? Raise your hand and we can call you in as we open up for community concerns.
Miss the commissioner.
We are going to commissioner updates. And I know we do have some updates, and I'm going to start at the end of the table with Commissioner Horn.
I have two things. One is about the development above the Black Coffee restaurant. They have made some more changes in their plan and will present them at our July ANC meeting. So we'll see that soon. And the other is about the Balfour Trammell Crow construction where the Safeway used to be. At our March 1 meeting, the ANC approved a letter to the zoning administrator asking for compliance with the BZA order to construct sidewalks and traffic improvements as part of that project. And the Palisades Community Association sent a similar letter. Despite repeated efforts, we have not got an answer from the zoning administrator 3 months later. Just wanted you to know.
Commissioner Elkins.
Well, I want to report on the Transportation Committee. There are three things that have been going on, and Madam Chair, you may want to take two of them. I'll start with one I think that I will do, and that is New Mexico Avenue improvements, which include a bike path and other pedestrian changes. The department very close to installation of that bike path, so we'll see that during the summer. You may have already noticed that there are bus improvements there, as well as improvements for pedestrians down at Garfield Street. The other two are the stormwater issue, Madam Chair, and the better bus. Would you like me to do either one of those, or would you like to do those? Stormwater.
I'll do stormwater.
Okay. Good, go ahead.
Okay, so the city has made an agreement with the EPA, and part of that is to clean up our rivers here and the whole Potomac watershed. And in Broad Branch, Spring Valley area, the idea is to not have our stormwater runoff go into the sewers, but to actually capture it in our communities. DDOT is going to be running this program. They held a community meeting out on the street. Commissioner Cologne Roosevelt participated in that. I have met with some neighbors, but there are going to be bioretention areas, maybe 30 of them they're proposing. If you've ever been into Spring Valley, they have a natural storm water runoff there where the one of the actual springs is located. There's going to be a lot of bioretention there. It is going to be a new look for Spring Valley. These bioretention areas will be come out into what we consider street side parking there. And the idea is the city is going to try and capture all of the stormwater runoff there. And I think that we are at the point where people are starting to be told what the impacts are going to be on the community, what the impacts are going to be on the environment. And the ANC is going to be very involved in working with neighbors.
And I might just add, the Transportation Committee has formed a committee. And there are two ways you can participate. One is to actually be on that subcommittee, and the other one is to give us your email address so you can be informed. So if you're interested in that, just send an email to 3d@anc.dc.gov or go on the website and use our contact information, contact us link, and you can send us your name and tell us which one you'd like to be, either on the committee or be informed as the committee moves ahead.
And then I was going to update the Better Bus when it was on the agenda.
I think that makes sense.
Okay.
So that's,
I just wanted to make one announcement about some new businesses that are opening up in Palisades. There we have a new art gallery. It's called Beyond Art. It's near the strip on MacArthur, near where Aracosha and the Montessori preschool is. You should swing by and stop by. It's amazing. There was an art show last week, very, very well attended. Also in that area is going to be an Argentinian bakery. So look for the listserv when that business opens up.
What are the features of an Argentinian bakery?
I think it's Argentinian inspired pastries.
I'm excited to find out.
Yeah, it's going to be great.
Great. I will update folks on the house that is now being built despite being illegal and contrary to code at 5122 Cathedral Avenue. Folks may remember that we had a special meeting on March 14th, and Commissioner Duncan and Elkins and Horn and myself have been very active in trying to engage with the city, engage the Department of Buildings to identify, to confirm whether or not the building that's being built is illegal, as we think it is, and contrary to numerous zoning requirements. The Department of Buildings, the zoning administrator is absolutely non-responsive, completely negligent, and it's beyond frustrating. The builder has stopped communicating with the ANC, and while there's an appeal pending on the existing permit, that hearing is not scheduled until October. By then, the house will largely be built, and that really skews the incentives for the Board of Zoning adjustment to rule in favor of developers. And so the system is really stacked against citizens and against people that are trying to simply get the city to enforce its own zoning code. We now are aware that there's a new permit that may be issued by the Department of Buildings related to the same property. Of course, the permit appears to be issued, but the ANC is none the wiser because we can't seem to get access to any of the plans. So we learned today that we may need to FOIA the city to get access to the plans, which are normally available as a matter of public record. So this has been a frustrating experience, and it really goes to show, as Commissioner Horn said, how negligent and poorly run the Department of Buildings is fundamentally, because they are just absolutely non-responsive, and it emphasizes what Commissioner Nowak was talking about whether, how the Department of Public Works and the DGS just can't simply just respond to simple questions. And I don't know whether it's stonewall or incompetence or indifference, but it's incredibly frustrating. So that is my update.
I concur. Commissioner Simplets.
I'm here to give the crime summary that we didn't get from Officer McAwee. This is citywide carjackings. There have been 324 carjackings in 2023. 73% of those involved guns. Thus, carjackings do not remain relatively rare, as one of our draft resolutions said a few months ago. Murders, unfortunately, we hit 102 murders in 2023. This is a 19% increase from last year. Robberies, there have been 1,189 robberies this year, which is a 25% increase from last year. Violent crime, there have been 1,967.
Hello, I went to the AWS summit.
Hey, Brad.
Could you unmute, Trisha?
All right, we should be good.
There have been 1,967 incidents of violent crime this year, which is a 16% increase from last year. Motor vehicle thefts, there have been 3,028 stolen cars, which is 118% higher than the number last year. That's double the number from last year. All crime, our crime has increased 20%, 27% over last year. That's 27%. And we're down to only 3,242 officers. Remember, we should be at 4,000 officers, and we're at 3,242 officers. I received a text from a former ANC3D commissioner today, which made me really sad. The text stated, "We were thinking about moving with all this crazy crime happening lately. Odd to think that it's starting to feel unsafe in Northwest." This makes me very sad because the commissioner's a friend of mine and did a really good job as commissioner here in the ANC3D. The final updates that I have, a lot of people hopefully affectionately call me the biggest loser, but that's only in this ANC. Once the issue goes beyond us to the council or the mayor, it's this ANC rather than me that ends up being the biggest loser. I have good news to report on issues that I lost 6-1 here. Hardy Park will be preserved. No school in Hardy Park. It was not included in the funding. No funding for the new school. Second, school resource officers. School resource officers, I lost my resolution without even a second, but the council wisely agreed with Mayor Bowser to reinstate school resource officers in the budget, and therefore our students in DCPS schools are the biggest winners. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Noah.
I just have two quick items of note. Public safety related to transportation, as some residents have called out to myself, and I believe Commissioner Simkowitz as well. When the intersection at Foxhall and Reservoir was repaved last month, there was delay in repainting of the lines. And so the left turn only arrow onto Reservoir Road was not painted, leading to a sharp increase in the number of cars who are going straight at that intersection, which is a noted safety issue that has since been repainted. Thanks to DDOT for responding to our request for that. The second thing is there was street work done on Salem Lane and a rather gaping hole in the pavement left. I received several phone calls, emails from residents, not only of Salem, but of neighboring streets saying this is creating a traffic hazard. As of today, it has been repaved as well. So great news all around on those, thanks to DDOT. That's it.
I'd like to just add to the issue about Foxhall and Reservoir. I submitted a TSI, transportation safety investigation for that intersection, essentially suggesting that they paint those turn lines further on up the road, so that people have more warning, because I think I've seen many people coming down and suddenly realizing they're in the wrong lane. It has not yet been funded, shall we say.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I think that's a great idea. And it's funny, Commissioner Elkins, because I had a similar thought one day when I was coming south on Foxhall and I saw the sign on the, the right-hand side on a pole. And I was thinking to myself exactly the same thing. If we moved that back 20, 30 feet, that would help with that as well. And that might be a less expensive thing to get in their priority queue. So I'm happy to put in a ticket for that and see if we can get that sign moved back a little bit and give motorists additional warning that they're coming into a left turn only area.
that would be helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Those are really good points. That's it for commissioner updates. We're going to open this up for community concerns. Please take a moment to raise your hand if you are here for something that's not on the agenda. We generally ask people to speak for 1 or 2 minutes, depending on how complex their issue is. We see anyone? Okay, we are going on to the discussions, and I am going to ask Bradley to call up Ashley Wells. She's with DC Smart Lighting, and she is going to be telling us a little bit about the streetlight replacement program that's happening.
Hello. How are you?
Hi. Hopefully we'll get your face up here pretty soon. Thank you. Welcome. Welcome to 3D.
Thank you, thank you. I am trying to share my screen. I don't have that capability yet.
We can get you hooked up here in just a second.
And I also have on the line Stanislaw Matthew. He'll be on to take questions. Let's see, screen share. Yes.
Is he here on video or is he here?
He's on video. You
Oh,
should
he's
see
here.
him.
Okay, great. All right,
Yes.
perfect.
Good evening, everyone.
Oops, sorry. That's not
Good evening.
Okay, so again, I'm Ashley Wells. I'm here to present for the DC Smart Street Lighting Project, Brighter, Better Connected. And what we are doing with this project is we are going to be modernizing the street lights in DC. There's over 72,000 lights that we're going to be working on. And with this conversion, we're converting them to LED technology. With this install, you're also going to get some.
Ashley, I'm sorry. We
We don't
lost your
have,
screen.
Yeah, we don't see yours.
It just says end of slideshow, so perhaps you arrowed to the end by
We
mistake.
go.
Yeah.
Do you see it now? Okay.
We do. Community benefits is what's up on the screen now.
Community benefit. Okay, good. So we're going to be modernizing over 72,000 streetlights. They're getting this new LED technology, and along with it, we're going to install some. It's going to have some remote monitoring capabilities, meaning that on the back end we can see when a light goes out, and that'll help us to get to the light and get it repaired a lot sooner, hopefully, than waiting for calls to start coming into 311. With this install, it's going to help support sustainability efforts and reduce energy consumption. So our project timeline, back in May 2022, that's the back end work. Project kicked off, everything signed, started looking at everything. And then in Q1 of this year, we began some rehab work, just making sure the poles are ready to get the new install. If there's something that needs to be repaired, just getting those ahead of time instead of right there on site. And then Q2, we began our conversion work where the lights are actually being installed. Over here, back in December, I'm sorry, and this will go into our asset management phase, which will continue all the way through 2037, which is pretty much just our maintenance phase, making sure everything's up and running the way that it's supposed to. For our design and construction, we began with wards 5, 7, and 8. That's group 1. Then wards 2, 3, and 4. You all part of group 2, and then we'll finish up with wards 1 and 6. So the way that this is done is that each ward, they have their ANCs, and those ANCs are broken into bundles. There's about 5 bundles per ANC, and we do work on a bundle no more than 14 days. We need to be in and out with the streetlights converted in that time frame. So again, our asset management, that's our maintenance phase, and it's going to carry on all the way through 2037, just making sure everything is running the way that it's supposed to be running. And we have our outreach and engagement. So at least 45 days prior, we are to notify the ANCs that we are coming and what the project is. And then 7 days prior to actually beginning work, you all will start to see door hangers, info cards going out, just letting you know this is coming in the next few days. And then 72 hours ahead of schedule, or ahead of the work beginning, is when those emergency no parking signs will go up, just making sure that the streets are clear and we have the room necessary to get in there and do the install. So you can reach us. We have our website. It's dcsmartstreetlights.com, sorry, streetlights.dc.gov. And you can scan this QR code here and it will take you to the website. And then if you all have any additional questions following today's presentation, you can reach us at info@dcsmartstreetlights.com. And then if we have any press, we do have a press email as well. And that is all.
That was terrific and very informative. And I know we're going to have questions. So hopefully we'll get your you back up on the screen here, but did you have a question?
I'm sure you have some.
I do, but you go ahead.
Ashley, hi, my name is Jeremy Joseph. Thanks for doing this. Overall, this is great, right? More efficiency and central control and all that is terrific. Streetlights are in residential neighborhoods can be a problem. And in the past, we've had neighbors, and I've personally been a victim of this, where streetlights are shining very bright into windows at night, and it's totally unnecessary lighting, and it's a problem. So overall, big supporter. In specific, sometimes there's an issue. How will the brightness of the lights be different perhaps than is on residential streets now? And how does that brightness relate to sort of and how will the shaping of the light be to make sure the light goes down and not up or out into the community? And what will the temperature of the lights be, and how was that decided? And by temperature, I mean color.
Okay, so I think I will take those questions. So thank you for raising those points. So I will answer first about the color temperature of these LEDs. So as per our contract with the DDOT, we do have two different types of color temperatures. The one, I think, for the residential area, that's 2700K, sorry. And for the commercial areas, that's 3000K. So we have two types of that. So between 2700K and 3000K kelvins. So that's in the warm color, warm white color. It's not
the same color as my Christmas lights. Good choice.
Then coming back to the pandemic, so we do have some requirements as per our contract and as per the standards to get a certain level of illuminance on the roads, uniformity and the like. So that's from a main perspective for this project. We fulfill with these requirements. But when it comes to some specificities from some neighborhood and the like, having some light shining in the house of the people and the like. So we have the capacity remotely to dim the light individually. So basically the design we made is the standard design as per the requirements from the contract. But as soon as there is any specificity or any request for any resident, I think they could raise that through a 311 call, and then DDOT will tell us, okay, for this specific location, please, can you dim the light down to 50% only? That's one solution. The other one is we do have the capacity to put some shields, some specific shields on the light, depending on the type of the lights. Typically the post-ops ones do have, they are by design shielded. They don't have any lights on the outside. They are only illuminating the pavement on the street, on the sidewalks. But for the cobra heads, for instance, we do have the capacity to put some shields on, to really protect, to diminish the level of lights for the house.
That is fantastic. And I'm going to ask a question that's in the chat. Thank you for those answers. The question in the chat is, will alley lights be replaced as well?
Sorry, the alley light? Yeah. Yeah, so alleys, that's supposed to be replaced. That's part of our scope. Look at that. Around the district, we're going to replace, I think, more than 75,000 luminaires. Currently, yeah, sure.
I have a question about the actual work, about how long does it take to do one light? Like, what's the disruption or like, what can people expect if they have a light outside their home? Is it like one day's work? And I assume you're not replacing the pole, you're retrofitting what's there?
Correct. So exactly as Ashley explained, we have two different type of works. What we call the rehabilitation works, it's based on the current conditions of the poles, the foundations, the bases, the arms. So we do have to replace a certain number of arms within the district. I can tell you we're going to replace 15,000 of them. Foundations, we're going to replace 4,000 foundations across the full district. So that's what we call rehabilitation works. In that case, so that's where you will see some ENPs coming, some door hangers, because it takes a little bit of time to do these works. For instance, foundations, it can take up to 5 or 6 days to replace a foundation.
Oh, okay.
But when it comes to purely the conversion of the lights into LEDs, let's say for a curb head, we account for 15 minutes. So that's really not disrupting. So that's a curb head. For a teardrop, a post-op, it can goes up to 30, 40 minutes per light. But that's a rolling truck that's gonna work over the cars parked over there. That's a bucket truck that's gonna work for that and do the conversion. So this is mainly the reason why. For instance, in ANC3D, I can tell you there are 4 bundles, and total light to be converted is 2,400 lights within your ANC. So that's the reason why we split each ANC in several bundles to be able to come in and come out within these 14 calendar days, not more. And most of them, we should spend roughly between 5, 6, 7 days maximum to convert all the lights.
Thank you. I think this is really good news. Does anyone else have any questions? Is there anything else in the chat?
Anything else in the chat?
This was my last question is, do you know when you'll be starting in ANC3D? Is there an estimated? I know it's probably also weather dependent, but.
So specifically in ANC3D, no, I'm not able to tell you, but what I can tell you based on the groups of wards, currently we're working in Ward 5, 7, and 8, and we have already converted, let's say 10% of the full number of lights in the district as we speak. We will move to this second group of wards, let's say beginning of September, not so after the summer. But anyway, I think you will receive this additional 45 days email or mail dedicated to your ANC to say, okay, we are coming soon to your specific neighborhood.
Yes, Commissioner Jessup, one more question.
Thank you. And sorry, and then Commissioner Nowak has a question, but so you mentioned, Mr. Matthew, people being able to request on 311 to change or to get shielding. Oftentimes, if 311 isn't loaded with the appropriate prompt, people are not able to make that appropriate request. So is 311 loaded with the appropriate drop-down menu so people can request that? And if not, can you make sure that it is, please?
I'm not aware of that. I'm not managing 311 at all. We could ask the district.
I think Ms. Wells might log that request, right?
Yep, I can follow up on that.
Great, thank you.
Commissioner Nowak?
I just have a quick follow-up question. Commissioner Duncan, when she was asking about timing, mentioned weather, and I'm curious, is this project weather dependent? If we're in the midst of a hurricane, obviously that's exigent circumstances, but generally do the crews work regardless of precipitation? Will they work through the winter? Are there certain thresholds in which they must work?
Yeah, good question. So no, we are working all days except when it rains, because we are doing some hot works because we don't have the capacity to cut off the power to replace the lights. So meaning that's hot works with hot wires, and we can't within our company, private company, we do have some very, very strict rules regarding safety. We don't want to lose anyone in this project. So that's the only area that's when we are not able to work, when it's raining.
Like hot wires and water don't seem to play well together, is that?
No, not well at all.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, thank you all so much. This is actually better news than I thought it was going to be. So well done. I think this is going to be a great project. Yes, thank you all very much.
Thank you for your time.
All right, now we are moving on to our official business. First up, is American University Meltzer Athletic Center further processing. Commissioner Elkins, would you like to make a motion?
Yes, I'd like to move, that we send a letter to the zoning commission, essentially endorsing this project. And that letter has been on the website. We've been working with American University over a good number of months and,
I'll second the motion.
okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So, I think, the letter essentially covers the process, but then deals with, noise, lighting, and the buffer landscaping. And I think it would be helpful if, Mr. Peterson were to give a brief presentation on how they dealt with these issues. And then we could move to a vote on this.
There's Mr. Peterson. Hello.
Hey, I'm welcome back. Would I be able to share my screen?
I think we can do that.
Check this here. Could be here. Let me roll up to the top here. All right, can everybody see that?
Yes, that's a great slide.
Perfect. We go to the full screen here, get the full effect. Thank you, Commissioner Elkins, for that introduction. Again, my name is Corey Peterson. I am our Assistant Vice President for Community and Government Relations here at American University. I'm joined by a colleague of mine, a longtime land use attorney from Golston, Paul Tummins, who's also on the line in case we have any technical questions. He'll be able to help answer those as well. And I want to say thank you also to Commissioner Elkins and Chair Duncan for your participation in our partnership, and also recognize William Clarkson as our steering committee chair is also on the call. We're going to cover a couple of things 4 or 5 things really quick. We want to cover our extensive outreach and communications plan we had with this project. I'm going to show you a couple of pretty pictures of the building just because we've updated that slightly since I was last here. Information related to noise and how we plan to mitigate the noise from our HVAC equipment. Information related to an exterior lighting study that we did and how we plan to mitigate the lighting coming from the building, and some updated enhancements to our vegetative buffer. Without further ado, we'll start with our community engagement. As you can tell, we started back in December, and we've held a number of partnership meetings. We've held a couple of information forums. It was included in our CLC and will be included moving forward in our CLC with our town hall, with our American University president, Sylvia Burwell. And we're here tonight. We'll be at ANC3E next week and the week after to ANC3A before our zoning commission hearing in July. So there's been a lot of outreach. Additionally to that, we have a pretty extensive website that includes both an FAQ, something that came out of our partnership, but also a portal where folks could come in and ask questions, and then we answered it through our portal. So there's a lot of good information online as well. For context of where we're talking, this is just cut from our campus plan. This is sites 3 and 5, which you'll see here on your screen. A little different view looking at it to show where that actually is, along with our health and wellness court. Here's a couple of pictures. This is looking from the new plaza that will be built. You can see SCAN, our sports center annex, on the right, and the Meltzer Center on the left, with the bridge that will connect the two with the service road underneath. Here's a view from Reeves Field. And then lastly, a view from the property line at University Avenue, looking at the health and wellness court. As far as it relates to noise, this is an important part because we want to make sure that we are being good neighbors and good stewards, and that we're mitigating that noise that might be created from our HVAC or the generator. So we did a sound study, and what this is showing you is that it's assuming that the receivers are approximately 411 feet from the noise source, which would be along University Avenue. And what the sound study says here is that it would be between 45 and 50 dBA from those generators. We chose specific generators that would hopefully cause a lower amount of noise. And we're also building enclosures along with sound attenuation materials to help mitigate any noise coming from the HVAC units on top. As it relates to the generator itself will only run once every about a month, and that's to charge up. We can choose that time when that runs. And then after that, it won't run unless there's an unplanned power outage. Oh, and I also should mention the sound study took into account or did not take into account any objects that might be between the Meltzer Center and the University Avenue properties. So it didn't take into account the buffer or the berm or anything along the way through that. This is another look at just sort of the typical noise out there, normal talking, washing machines, and sort of where our estimated noise to be at the source. Some of the key findings, I mentioned this earlier, the predicted noise levels will be between 45 and 50. We don't anticipate there'll be any noticeable difference whether you're on the first or the second floor. And really the highest anticipated noise, as I mentioned before, will be when that emergency generator is charging or doing a scheduled test, but we can plan those ahead of time and notify the community in advance. As we move into exterior lighting, we had some goals in mind as we did the study there, and that was really, this came out of our working group, was really to address public safety and wanting to make sure we had adequate illumination, while also limiting the light trespass that goes into the sky beyond the property lines. We also wanted to make sure we were including warm lights as opposed to the really bright LED lights, and provide energy code controls where applicable. So here's an aerial view of the buildings. And you'll be able to see there that our brightest lights will be along the road. Make sure that if any vehicular traffic is there, that we're being visible. And then this is what it would look like as it relates to foot candles. This is a really technical term, but as in terms of foot candles, you'll be able to see that again, it's the brightest along the roads and the service road on the backside there where our loading dock is, but everything else really low to the ground and keeping in mind our community. As it relates to the vegetative buffer, I have just a couple of slides here. We did an extensive study on this where we took pictures from both a first floor and second floor from each of the properties along University Avenue, looking towards the anticipated buildings at Meltzer Scan. And so these first two are the ones closest to University Avenue there, looking at Meltzer Scan. And you'll see the first one on the left is the current view that we took in the winter. So there's not a whole lot of vegetative greenery there. The second photo is what it will look like when we plant the new materials. And then the third one is what it would look like 5 to 7 years out. And so you can see from a couple of properties there what that looks like. If you reverse that and take a look from inside the university, looking out at University Avenue, again, the top one being what it currently looks like, the middle one being what it will look like after we complete the enhancements, and the third one at the bottom being what it will look like 5 to 7 years out. And with that, happy to take any questions. I wanted to make sure I ran through that really quickly and save time for some questions.
Thank you, I appreciate that. I would like to make a comment. I am new to the commission, and the American University was my really first deep dive into the community issue here. And there's so much work that goes behind the scenes. It's likely why we don't have 25 people raising their angry hands here. It is a massive undertaking to get this project planned with all of the feedback. And I just want to commend the community for participating and American University for really stepping up and doing this process in a really good way. And I am going to be encouraging my fellow commissioner to pass this letter. Are there any?
Well, I want to second that. Let me just try to lay out what the duties of this commission are, just to make sure everybody's clear about why we are voting on this tonight. The zoning commission does expect the ANC to provide information about whether or not there are objectionable impacts of any of this project on the neighborhood. And as Mr. Peterson has shown, the focus has been on University Avenue. And I think, and then with regard to that, noise and lighting and the buffer. And the question for this commission is, do we believe that they have done an adequate job to address those issues, and that, as this letter says, we do not believe there are any objectionable impacts from this project on the neighborhood. We also commend them for the outreach that they did. So that is the issue before the commission. It's an important one because the zoning commission does depend on us to tell them from the neighborhood side whether this in fact is something that they should approve. And I am in proposing this letter, Madam Chairman, I'm proposing that we do affirmatively tell the zoning commission we believe they should approve this project.
Are there any other questions? All right, I'm going to call the question. All those in favor of sending this letter to zoning? None opposed, passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Peterson, and everyone, Mr. Clarkson, everyone who's on the phone who participated in this process. A lot of work. Well done.
Thank you.
The next item, I am going to make a motion in support of the Iona Senior Center grant proposal to the Department of Aging and Community Living. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second, Iona is the only, well, we don't have any city-run senior centers in wards 2 or 3. And Iona serves that in a private capacity. And they rely on millions of dollars for a grant. And they have asked all the ANCs that send seniors to their center, which is over near Tenleytown Library. And this is a letter that is just saying the good works that they do for the seniors in our ward and seniors within ANC3D, and this is a support of their application. Are there any questions?
Commissioner Duncan, not a question, but I just want to speak in favor of Iona in addition to all of those good services that you described for seniors. What constituents may not know is that they also have what can be described as a lending library for mobility devices. So regardless of age, if you have hip or knee or leg surgery and need a walker or a wheelchair, one of those knee scooters, they are available for loan at no cost. It's a community service that Iona provides, and I think it's really helpful for a lot of people. And so their reach actually extends beyond just seniors.
Excellent. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Our next item is the Sibley Hospital Sterile Processing Department. I'm going to be doing this for Commissioner Colon Roosevelt. He is ill. Motion on the floor is to send a letter of support to the Health and Planning Development Agency for Sibley Memorial Hospital Sterile Processing Department. Do I have a second? Commissioner Joseph does a second. Commissioners may recall Sibley came and gave a talk about this processing unit to sterilize their equipment. It's all internal work. I don't see beyond construction vehicles much impact to the community, and it's going to be great for the hospital. Any other questions? All right, I shall call the question. All those in favor of sending this letter of support? Passes unanimously. Thank you very much. Next, I'm turning to Commissioner Simkowitz for a resolution in support of Mayor Bowser's legislation on crime.
Thank you, Commissioner Duncan.
Make the motion.
Well, I'd like to just give a summary first.
Point of order. Or just make a motion. It'll be fine.
Well, my resolution before I do the motion is just to support the mayor's. I have the right to make to give a summary under Robert's Rules of Order.
Under Robert's Rules of Order in the discussion. That's how we run our meetings.
But that's not how it works. In Robert's Rules, I'm allowed to give a summary. And I can get the Robert's Rules out, but I'm giving a summary. It's going to be one sentence. I don't know why.
Okay.
You always give me a hard time on this, but I would bring to your attention in the next meeting. I bought a copy of Robert's Rules just for this purpose. And the purpose is to show that I have the right to give a summary. The summary is that we will support the mayor's crime bill that's coming up, and it's as simple as that. You guys didn't like facts that I put in, so I put in something that just says very simply, we support the mayor's bill. I ask for a second.
Madam Chair, I'm going to second not because I favor this, but because I think we should discuss it.
Great. All right, we are now in discussion. You have the floor since it's your motion.
I have nothing to add. You heard from the commander's in support, the mayor's in support. I think you should support the mayor. If you don't want to support the mayor, then don't.
So is the letter that is up for discussion right now, the letter that we posted on the website that
Correct.
you had sent, it's the
Yes.
same letter?
Same letter.
Okay. Anybody else have something to add?
Well, Madam Chairman, thinking that perhaps this commission would not want to fully endorse everything that's in the mayor's proposal, but would instead like to have the council make some informed decisions about what to do about crime in this city. I did draft an alternative that essentially calls for bringing this to the council, having the council have extensive hearings so that people can be heard. It sounds to me like the mayor has begun that process, and I think the council should continue it. And in particular, to hear from the former police chief and hear from the current attorney general, and if he will come, the federal U.S. attorney. So I do have a letter that I could propose.
Would you like to make an amendment for a substitute letter?
Well, for discussion purposes, yes, I will do that. I propose a letter which is on the website that's in a substitute for the letter presented by my colleague.
So just so we're all clear, I will second that amendment. So now the discussion is going to turn to this amended letter. Does anyone have
I
any
do.
comments?
What specific problem does any member of this commission have with Mayor Bowser's bill?
Well, I'll speak first. My feeling is that there are other things that probably should be done by the council to deal with the crime, particularly on, for instance, the juvenile side. And that's what I would like to see the council deal with. I would like to have them have a comprehensive approach to the problems rather than a piecemeal one. And I think considering the mayor's recommendations together with other recommendations from the Criminal Code Reform Commission and from the public would be helpful.
But as the mayor's rep stated, the mayor has had extensive public hearings about this, extensive public outreach, and extensive cooperation with the parties involved, such as the police and the attorney general's office. And so the reason that she has to do this piecemeal and in this manner is the council has completely failed to act. Their flawed criminal code reform was vetoed by the mayor, I believe in January of last year. The Congress of the United States overturned the bill after the mayor vetoed it and after the council reversed the mayor on that. The Senate, which is controlled by Democrats, did that. The House of Representatives, with a lot of Democrats in support, took that action, and our friend President Biden signed it into law. So there has been a lot of work done. I think it's a slap in the face to Mayor Bowser, who is a DC native. She has been through the 70s and 80s and 90s where crime was out of control. She knows what it's like. She did this in cooperation with the police department. You heard our commander state reasons tonight why her bill is the one that should be adopted. And remember that the council is asleep on this issue. They act like they can care less about crime. And you know, when one of our former commissioners, a loved person in our neighborhood, is threatening to leave our neighborhood because of crime, that is terrible. I ask that you reject Commissioner Elkins' resolution and proceed accordingly.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner Horn, you're recognized.
Brad, could you put up the slides, please? I'd like to speak in favor of Commissioner Elkins' amendment. And there are some slides.
Would you like me to show the amendment first so we can read it, or the slides first?
No, just put up my slide, please.
Both, yeah, both letters are on the website if anyone's at home.
Okay, and you.
Can you see it?
Yeah, can you fill the screen?
Will it let you play?
Brian, I think you have the presenter view as opposed to the full screen.
Yeah, that top left one should do it.
Oh, you see this screen, I see. Give me 1 second, sorry.
Bear with us at home. Thank you. There we go. Perfect.
Okay, so this shows where and what I'm talking about. Everything on this map is PSA 205. And ANC3D is the part that's not in yellow. So keep in mind that some crimes reported for PSA 205 are not in ANC3D. Our numbers are a little lower. If you look on the right, this part of the slide defines what are index crimes. Index crimes are what we use to determine the crime rate. And the interesting thing about index crimes, which are violent crimes and property crimes as listed, is that they don't include a whole lot of crimes. Forgery, securities fraud, embezzlement, money laundering, perjury, illegal gambling, traffic offenses, and much, much more are not index crimes, and they're not counted at all. It's just these crimes. But at the same time, some crimes that you're familiar with are subcategories of these. So for example, carjacking is counted as robbery in index crimes, or shoplifting is counted as theft other. Next slide, please. So that's it, perfect. So this is in 2022, last year, all the police service areas across the city arranged by the most crime, the far left, to the least crime in the far right. If you look at the far left, that's PSA 305, which is around U Street. They had nearly 1,200 crimes last year. The average PSA has 475 crimes. And if you look at the very far to the right, the very last one, that's PSA 205, that is us. We have the lowest crimes, and we had 129 total crimes in 2022, which is considerably less than anybody and about 1/4 of the average. The next slide will show just violent crimes. Okay, these are just the violent crimes, and from the left, you'll see PSA 603, which is east of the river near around East Capitol Street, with 146 violent crimes. The average PSA had 67 violent crimes. On the far right, again, is us, PSA 205. And you may be squinting there, you don't see anything there. And that's because PSA 205, where we live, had no violent crimes in 2022. They had zero. We had zero. There's probably more than 18,000 people who live in PSA 205, and it is extremely rare for any group of 18,000 people to have no violent crimes an entire year. In other words, Officer McElwee and his colleagues pitched a no-hitter last year, and we should appreciate it. The next slide, please. This brings us to the first 5 months of this year. And again, this shows both the index crimes that are both property and violent crimes. The most crime is again in PSA 305 with 607 crimes in the first 5 months. The average PSA has 230 crimes. And our PSA, once again, is on the furthest right with the least crime, 72 crimes so far this year. The next slide, please. This shows just violent crimes in the first 5 months of this year. So on the left is 603 with 82 violent crimes. The average is 33 violent crimes per PSA. And we are in the far right again, the least amount of crime with 2 violent crimes in the first 5 months. However, if you remember that map with the yellow, one of the violent crimes was in the yellow, which is not in our ANC. So our ANC has had 1 violent crime this year and 0 violent crimes last year. 17 straight months with only 1 violent crime, which is amazing. Now, some of you out there may be thinking, I'm sure some of you are thinking that, you know, okay, so I see that our neighborhood is the safest in Washington, D.C. Okay, the numbers show we are the safest, but we're still in a big city. You know, isn't it still dangerous here compared to, let's say, a small town? The next slide, please. No, the answer is we have less crime than small towns of our size. The fact is, crime is awful. Nobody is in favor of any crime. We want the fewest crimes possible, but ANC3D is one of the safest places anywhere. So in summary, this is why I support Commissioner Elkin's amendment. There are 46 ANCs across the city. Every single one of them has more crime than we have. So I don't want to disrespect them. I don't think that we should be taking the lead on this issue. They know crime, they experience crime a lot more than we do. And that's why I like Commissioner Elkin's letter, because that's how it's addressed.
So what about?
Thank you. Hold on.
We live, no,
I need to, Commissioner, okay, she doesn't have her hand up. You're recognized.
So what? We live in the Beverly Hills, the District of Columbia. However, I have my oath of office right here. Our oath, the oath that each one of us take, is to consider each matter before me from the viewpoint of the best interest of the District of Columbia as a whole. To consider each matter before me. That means that we have to look out for every single person in the District of Columbia, whether they live in Beverly Hills, where we live, or someplace else. So I care about not only people that live in 3D07, I care about people that live in 3D01 and 3D02 and Ward 2, Ward 3, Ward 7, and Ward 8, where my grandparents coincidentally lived. So therefore, I think that we should cooperate with the mayor. We're not taking the lead on this. The mayor's taking the lead. The mayor has asked for people all over the city. How many people here went to the mayor's forum on crime? Anybody else? We were all invited. There were people from all over the city there. And as Matthew Barclay stated, they were from 7 and 8, and they were screaming out to the mayor, "Mayor, please help us. Please help us." The council didn't do anything. They're not doing their job. They weren't yelling at the police department. Police department's doing their job. The police department is doing the best they can, but the council defunded them. That's why we're at 3,200 officers when we should be at 4,000. So the only thing that I can tell you is support the mayor. The mayor is here to help. She's a 3rd term popular mayor. She's looking out for the best interest of everyone in the District of Columbia as a whole. So that's why we should reject the amendment, and that is Commissioner Elkins' amendment, and go with my original resolution. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if I could reply.
Commissioner Elkins?
I mean, I certainly take my oath very seriously, and I believe that this letter does work in the best interest of the district as a whole. And that's why I wrote it. One of my major criticisms of what went on in the council last time, and it may be my perception, so if I'm being unfair to the council, I apologize, but it seemed to me that what the council did last time was they received the report of the DC Criminal Code Reform Commission. They had some very quick hearings and immediately adopted it. The mayor vetoed it, and they still overrode the veto. We had concerns expressed by the police department and others about the thing, and I felt as if the council was not listening as much as they should. So what this letter now says, for those of you who haven't read it on the web here, is that basically that we feel that we are not in a position to speak to the substance of what all these reforms should be. And I think we just heard why maybe we're not the most qualified people to speak to the substance, but we can speak to the process. And we're suggesting that the process be, if the council, as my fellow commissioners suggest, is asleep, they should wake up, they should take the mayor's proposals. They should look at other proposals that others have had, including some of the proposals from the Criminal Code Reform Commission. It was not all bad. And they should listen to those people who are really affected. The mayor may have listened, but the council has not yet listened to these people. And they should in particular listen to Police Chief Robert Conte, retired, Brian Schwab, the Attorney General, and the U.S. Attorney for the district, who has a lot to say about what happens to criminals in this city. And they ought to wake up if they are asleep, and they should have these hearings. They should listen, and then they should enact reforms. And that's what I believe this commission should be in favor of, because I don't think we should be saying we know what the solutions are for Ward 7, Ward 5, or whatever. And we're not disrespecting the mayor because we mention in particular the mayor's recommendations here.
Commissioner Smith?
Yes, why should we go with the council when the mayor has done our job for us? We're not making these recommendations. She is.
The council is the one that has to act.
But they haven't acted. That's the problem.
Right, and we're asking them to do that. That's what this letter says. Please act.
Are there any other comments?
I think we can proceed to a vote.
All right, the question before us is to all those in favor of approving the substitute amendment letter. All those in favor? All those opposed?
Like a roll call.
Could you call the roll, please, Brad?
Yeah, 3D01,
Aye.
3D02,
Aye.
3D03,
Absent.
3D04,
Aye.
3D05,
Aye.
3D06,
Aye.
3D07,
No.
The motion passes 5-1. Since the amended letter passed, we are done with this topic. Thank you, everyone, for that thoughtful discussion. We are moving on to 3001 Foxhall Road, PSA. Commissioner Elkins, would you like to make a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'm proposing in a letter that's on the website that we agree with the applicant that it's okay for him to build a 6-foot fence on a few feet on the property line in front of his house on Hawthorne Street, but we're advised that we are opposed if he were to propose, and he says he is not, to put any kind of fence or other structure within 2 or 3 feet within the public space next to Foxhall Road, because the sidewalk there is not ADA compliant. It has telephone poles right in the middle of the sidewalk. And it's important not to have any structure there. This issue about Foxhall was raised by our constituents. And
So I think we need to take a second on the issue, Commissioner Elkins.
Would you like to second
Which
that?
I'm happy to do. Yeah, I'm happy to
Okay,
second.
that motion is seconded.
I
Please
apologize.
continue,
I
Mr.
apologize.
Point of order.
I'm not following
Wait,
my order.
Point of order, Commissioner Simpson?
I think that there should be an introduction because people need to know what we're talking about before there's a second. That's in Robert's rules.
I think that the introduction was, I rise to move to, in support of the letter on the website, in reference to the fence on Foxhall Road, period. You
There's
get a
people-
second on that, and then you have the discussion. That's the
That's
way
an
Robert.
incorrect- That's
That
an
is-
incorrect interpretation of Robert's rules.
I disagree with you. I have Robert's rules up in front of me. And I
Order.
disagree.
What is, we are going to continue with a very, very brief 1-second introduction, a second, and then discuss.
That's not in
Commissioner,
Robert's
but
rules.
Commissioner Simplett, we can go over Robert's rules another day. We don't have the rules in front of us, and we don't have a parliamentarian. So this is how we're proceeding.
I'm gonna bring the rules next time. I bought the book, so the city doesn't have to reimburse me and I can
That's
write
fine,
in it.
that's fine, but we're moving forward. Commissioner Elkins, could you,
I apologize, I misspoke. I hereby move that we approve the letter that's on the website.
I'll second that.
And now I would like to refer to my former remarks in which I was trying to explain what this letter is about. And I think I have completed that, and I will not say anything further.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you
What is the, on Foxhall Road, what is the closest cross street here?
Hawthorne.
Oh, Hawthorne, okay, so,
This is a corner lot, and the house will now face onto Hawthorne. And it will have a fence for a few feet on in the public space.
okay, but what we wanted in our letter, I just wanted to be clear, it sounds to me as if we don't want a fence coming right up to the sidewalk, because there's no tree box there, it's very close to the road, and if people needed to get around, you might need a few feet to go on the grass.
That's right, and the reason I'm including this is both because constituents have raised this issue, and secondly, because the applicant is thinking about building a wall. We just want to make sure the Public Space Committee is on notice that we are not in favor of anything in public space on Fox.
Is there an
opportunity? There's also a request to add onto Hawthorne as well.
One question, could you, do you have your hand raised? Because we may, bring you up. Okay, there we go. Do you, Brad, do you see, oh, yes, hello, how are you? Could you please, say your name and, your, association with this project?
Sure. Hi, John Ackridge. I am the neighbor at Hawthorne Street. And I have been given, I was dropped off this proposal from the next door neighbor. I would just mention that the development that they're putting in does not fit the area. It's hideous. Again, I understand people can make their own decisions on what they want to do with their property. But as far as extending, property lines and walls into kind of public area, potential property. And again, I don't know the right nomenclature for all of this, but I just want to voice my concern that this should not be allowed. It doesn't look good, and it's not good for the community. And the pool in on the, right next to the street. I mean, this is an absolute disaster. But again, I know it's their decision.
Can I also speak?
Could you, it's easier for us to find you if you, use the raise hand tool. Are you the homeowner?
Yes, I am.
What's your name?
Jonathan Gottlieb.
Okay, there we are. Hello.
Hi. Could you be a little bit more precise as to exactly how much land in the public space you were awarding to this developer?
I don't have the diagram in front of me, but it's approximately 10 feet.
So the public space is 15 feet and you're giving 10 feet to the developer.
No, 10.
So I'm a homeowner, and a lot of my neighbors would like to know on what basis we can also get 10 extra feet to our lot without paying for it. Can you
No, you
explain the
misunderstood me.
basis, the legal basis under which the ANC is approving giving up 10 feet that belongs to the public to a private homeowner?
I'm gonna let Commissioner Elkins,
Clarify.
clarify what he's talking about here.
I misled you. We're giving him or approving, agreeing with his request for about, I would think, 2 or 3 feet of that 10 feet of the 15 feet. And the 10 feet I was talking about is the linear feet along the street.
And just so you are aware, things get built in the public space all of the time. And I would like to let everyone know that this commission here is almost considered. You represent. We are the public space police. People are allowed to build fences, they can build walkways, they have driveways. They have, if they have a grade in their property, they're allowed to put steps up there. We have.
Right, but when you put up a fence or a wall, you're blocking the public.
Hold on, the commission, the chairwoman was speaking. Chairwoman was speaking in the middle of this her statement, and then you would get a chance to respond.
You will have a chance to respond, but we don't, interrupt people here, but.
You interrupted him.
Excuse me, Commissioner Sinowitz, you are not recognized. We take our public space very, very seriously. I would like to ask a clarifying question from Commissioner Elkins. Is he building a wall or a fence?
A fence, and the fence consists of thin metal with more than 50% openness between those metal strips.
So you'll be able to see
You'll
through it.
definitely be able to see very well through this fence.
They will not ever be able to tear this fence down and build a wall without going back to the Public Space Committee, but you are.
There's at least 2 other folks that also want to speak in addition to Mr. Jonathan, who was speaking previously.
Okay, Mr. Jonathan, you are recognized. Oh, I think you need to unmute.
Mr. Gottlieb, you're on mute.
Following up on Mr. Akeridge's comments, the neighbor, I don't think the ANC should be in a position of giving public land up to private homeowners when it clearly appears to me that this development is in clear violation of the Wesley Heights overlay. Specifically, there is a requirement under the Wesley Heights overlay that a minimum of 50% of the lot be pervious surface. And that's not true with the way this is being developed. Moreover, there's a maximum of 30% of the lot that can be occupied. That's also not true. There are huge violations of the Wesley Heights overlay that are being done by this developer. And then you folks are awarding this developer extra credit and giving him part of our public land. I just think that's outrageous. You guys can't be A, letting people violate the law, and then B, giving them a bonus for doing so.
So there's multiple people on Zoom that have their hands up, but some of them are raising them in physically, not digitally.
Let the owner or the architect speak if he's one of them.
Okay, I'm going to, since you're viewing the screen and I'm not seeing very well, I would like for you to call.
Oh, okay.
But I would like to ask, Commissioner Sinowitz, would you like to hear what the other neighbors say before you ask the question? Or
No,
speak?
I'd like to ask the commission why we're giving any fee to the owner. Can someone answer that? For defense, why, I mean, these gentlemen have good points. Why are we giving any public space to them? Sounds like we're giving 3 feet to this private guy.
So how about we listen,
Well, I have a question.
Well,
but you're asking the commissioners that, like,
But
we
the
would like to,
commissioners, the
we would like,
commissioners are the ones that have to answer the question.
we are going to hear from the rest of the neighbors.
But I'm asking for the commission on behalf of these neighbors.
Madam Chairman, I'll answer that, if I could. Basically, I think the chair has stated very well that every time someone comes in with a public space application and it comes before this commission, in our approving it, we are essentially giving them permission to use public space. That is what is happening here, where we are, this letter, at least as drafted, says we do not object to the use of that public space to put in that fence.
I'm gonna have Commissioner Joseph call on who he thinks we need to hear from.
Happily. So is the architect or the homeowner present? That PDQ 40?
No, we're neighbors.
Okay,
No, this is the homeowner. Architect is with us.
Okay, we're gonna go to so I'm gonna say, thank you, Commissioner. I'm gonna do the architect and the homeowner, and then we're gonna go to PDQ 40, and then we're going to Mr. Aldridge, and then we're gonna go to Commissioner Noah. Mr. Lahani or Mr. Kim, you have the floor.
Altaf, you wanna go ahead? You want me to go?
I'm the homeowner, and I was the one who actually came to everybody's house, knocked their doors to discuss it. I was able to speak to one neighbor that day, and then the next day I went around and dropped off all the letters. This is a permission to really have a fence up that you can see through more than 50% into the lot. That also kind of closes up the pool area and also protects it from the Foxhall Road. So I can have Danny explain a little bit more about what we are doing as far as the process is concerned. From what I understand, we needed to submit this for an approval from the ANC to get this going forward. So Danny, if you can explain a bit more, if you share your screen and show the picture of what it would look like is all the objections the neighbors are having now.
Sure. Can I have permission to share a screen?
Kim, you have it now.
Thank you. Can everybody see the screen?
Yes.
Okay, so what we are talking here is this thicker dashed line is where the property line is, and your street is your sidewalk is out here. Between your property line to the street, that's a public space, and we are proposing a fence up to where the existing hedge is on the Hawthorne side. On the Foxhall side, we are proposing retaining wall on inside of our property line, so it does not have to meet the open the fence 50% rule because it's building. We are building it on our property. So where you see a pink highlight is where it's going inside of the public space.
Madam Chair, can I just ask a clarifying question to the architect?
Yes, Commissioner Noah, go ahead.
I just want to restate what I think I heard, which is with the red line on Hawthorne Street, you are proposing to build a fence inside an existing hedge. Can you tell us a little bit more about the hedge, the height, the amount of density or coverage of that hedge? Is it a privet hedge where it's pretty fully grown in, or is it more sparse?
It's very dense hedge that is about
camera now.
30 inch to 3 feet in width, and then if you look at right here, this is where my cursor is. That's where the current retaining wall ends and meets the sidewalk. And we are proposing to go to the left and right of that end of the current retaining wall. And did that answer your question? The hedge is about 2 feet to 3 inch, very dense, probably 30-inch tall at the most.
Yes, it does answer it. Thank you. I'm sorry. And what's the height of the fence? So if it's at 30, if the hedge is at 30 inches, what would the height of the fence be? Did I hear 6 feet earlier?
Yeah, 6 feet. Because we are trying to put a pool inside of this property line, we have to protect the pool from neighbors.
Can
Yes,
I ask
yes.
you one more clarifying question?
Yeah.
I'm gonna call on a neighbor. Mr. Kim, I've not seen this site. Why can the fence not be built closer to your property line?
It can build closer to the property line, but as ANC know and as most of DC know, it's not, we are gonna build this fence permanently. Those extra buffer was there to future use. For example, if you have to ever extend the Hawthorne Street, that road is that buffer is there for the expansion of the street. If that ever happens, we are more than welcome to take that fence and bring it back to where it need to. However, we can right across from Hawthorne Street, our neighbor has their fence into public space, I believe. There is another 7 houses down towards the Hawthorne Street. There's another open fence that's going into the public space. And if you can see other agendas, there is a lot of
Excuse me, if you, we're asking everyone to mute themselves until it's your turn to speak. Thank you.
it's not like we are trying to break a rule, and only reason why you guys are gathered here is we reach out because we want to have these discussions. I believe that delivering letters served its purpose, and we are not trying to do anything illegal. One of the neighbor mentioned that we are over 30% of lot coverage. No, we are not. We went through the zoning review and then we got approved. There was the pervious issue that you mentioned. We are trying to use pervious material all the way around the pool so it absorbs all the water and doesn't cause any the stormwater drain. We don't want to overflow that. So we are trying to work within the rules that are given. So
Thank you. I think it would be good if we took the map down and we're going to call on the other neighbors.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. So PDQ 40, the gentleman and the woman in the blue shirt. Thank you.
Please state your name for the record and what is your relationship to this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, Bentley Goodman. I'm a neighbor. And regarding Hawthorne and Foxhall, the intersection there, as you can see, this car is literally in the crosswalk to get onto Foxhall Road. Because ours is less of a public land issue, but a public safety issue. On Hawthorne, going towards Foxhall Road, you can see if you need to turn left onto Foxhall Road, you can't see the cars coming. There's a vehicle right here. If I invite you all to go and see that, if you put a wall up along there, it's going to be impossible to go from Hawthorne onto Foxhall safely. And that's the hedge currently, and that hedge is at its highest point 33 inches at the north property line. Thank you.
No, that is not an open fence on Foxhall.
No, it's not
is
open,
a
it's that's
stone
ahead.
Wall they want to put up. Not ahead. The open fence is on the Hawthorne side, back from the farm.
They
where
show
the
a
swimming
wall,
pool-
not a fence.
So they're showing a wall. A permanent
So,
wall. It could be taken down, rightfully so. But you can't see through a 6-foot fence if you're trying to turn either left or right. We have a problem on Foxhall Road with traffic. We have a speed, people never go 25 miles an hour.
Never.
They go 35 miles an hour, 40 miles an hour. We have a narrow walkway. We have people with children in buggies. You also, at the end of Hawthorne towards the park, have steps going down into Battery Kimball Park. So people are trying to walk across there all the time. So it's really a real hazard as far as traffic is concerned. And that we invite you to come and sit there and look and see what we see and try to turn. You can't turn down at Garfield because you can't, you've got a light there.
So, I'm gonna, just say something.
Because there's no traffic light there. There's nothing.
I'm gonna say something clarifying, because this is very, very important. I'm glad that the homeowner is here to hear these comments. The wall that is along Foxhall is not before us today. In the city, we do not have anything to say about the wall. We are only here, we are only asked to discuss everything in the public space. I would like, you've heard the comments here, but there is nothing that before the ANC to discuss that matter.
There is a.
I'm opposed to him getting the extra advantage on Hawthorne where families try to walk. They're gonna narrow the walkway, so I'm opposed to that. And I think you should come and look at it before you vote on it.
The one thing I will say, and one of the neighbors, William Clarkson, who's very knowledgeable on these issues, suggested that you send those pictures to the DDOT liaison, that information's in the chat, because while Commissioner Duncan is right that the wall is not before us, it does look like a serious public safety issue, and it seems like DDOT would have would want to know about that.
I agree.
And in the past, we have on numerous occasions sent information to Mr. Pinheiro, the DDOT liaison, to raise issues, and he's very responsive. So I'm gonna, the next in line is Mr. Ackridge.
So thank you for calling on me. I would echo what Mrs. Albritton said and completely agree with everything they brought up. This is a public safety issue. The other part, though, that I would like to bring up is talking about the Hawthorne wall line, is that I don't believe the city should give the homeowner approval to build out this far. There's a reason why there's a build restriction line. And I think the city, I think the ANC should uphold that as the requirement for this homeowner.
Commissioner Walk, you can have your hand up.
I think that my point's been made by Commissioner Duncan, that the matter before the ANC is not the wall, which is behind the property line and therefore at the discretion of the homeowner. It is only because the homeowner was looking to reach out into the public space with the fence that we would have any say on that. If the homeowner were to step back that fence, and Mr. Elkins can tell us the number of feet, but put it back to the property line, then he could build the fence and the ANC wouldn't need to weigh in on it at all. So to the point made by the Albritons, I think that their concerns about the height of the fence and the visibility impacts may be real, but I'm not sure that that goes away if you move it back a few feet. I also would perhaps come down on the side of Mr. Ackridge with building into the public space. We've had a really significant problem with that in this neighborhood and perhaps throughout the city, but we really are trying to be very thoughtful about that here. And I'm sort of disinclined to allow us to what is effectively moving the property line of the house. You know, the effectively useful property line if public space is now behind a fence.
I'm gonna make a comment because I'm just now orienting myself with that drawing that we saw. There is a paragraph in the letter that's on the website, and I'm gonna read it here. It's not very long. It talks about the 50% fence along the front of the property, and it says, however, we are concerned about any use of public space along Foxhall Road next to the sidewalk. The sidewalk there is very narrow and appears to be non-ADA compliant. In addition, there is no tree box on this stretch of the road, and therefore traffic speeds by along very, very close to pedestrians. A person in a wheelchair would have difficulty getting past the telephone poles that are in the middle of the sidewalk. It is for these reasons that ANC3D is opposed to having any structure, a fence or a wall, right next to the sidewalk in public space. Such a structure would make it even more difficult and dangerous for pedestrians and disabled persons to use the sidewalk. We provide photos in this letter to illustrate. I'd like to add a friendly amendment that we say something about the visibility of cars turning there along.
Well, I think, Madam Chair, as I'm hearing the neighbors speak, they're speaking to the first paragraph of this letter, which essentially approves the 6-foot fence along Hawthorne, which I think is what they say will reduce the visibility as people coming up Hawthorne try to turn on the Foxhole. This is so I think they're addressing themselves effectively to this first paragraph, in which we do approve in this letter.
Yeah.
The fence along Hawthorne.
And as I understood the drawing, there is no encroachment into the public space on Foxhall. Mr. Kim's drawing showed the retaining wall along, on the inside of the property line. So I don't think that there's an issue before us as it relates to Foxhall. I think the issue before us is really on the Hawthorne side.
That is correct.
I'm going to make one comment about public space and fences versus walls. There are a lot of places in our neighborhood where people have built entire retaining walls in the public space. In general, I'm not generally objecting to someone who has a picket fence or, with spindles that you can see through. Those are much more temporary. And in the event that public space needs to be reclaimed, it's much easier to do. Commissioner
If I may,
Joseph?
the only last point, I think this discussion has been very helpful. Early on, there was a point raised as to whether the ANC has legal authority to give space or whatnot. I just want to reiterate one more time, because these issues have come before us quite a bit, is the DDOT comes to the ANC to ask for our view on whether a fence or a particular encroachment on public space, whether it's a driveway or whatever it is consistent with the regulations. And we tend to respond based on the regulations and based on our input from the neighbors. And as the commissioner said before, it is consistent with the regulations to permit a fence.
Madam Chairman, I wonder what I could ask Mr. Kim to bring the drawing back up. I want to take a look at how close this fence is to the intersection. And make a determination about how much of a safety problem that might be. So the fence does go all the way to the sidewalk on Foxhall, is that correct?
That is correct.
So the neighbors are saying coming out of Hawthorne and trying to turn onto Foxhall, their vision up and down Foxhall would be hindered by this fence.
Yeah, facing southbound, their southbound vision would be impaired.
May I ask a clarifying question? Is that an existing tree that's there along the front of the property near the corner of Foxhall and Hawthorne?
Yes, ma'am.
What did you say? Yes.
It is, it's existing. Maybe they can leave it behind.
You know, if they angled it from the property corner to the tree, that would give sight lines.
Right. Right, could, would that be possible, Mr. Kim?
Yeah, we'll definitely work with the people, ANC and a neighbor to help the neighborhood. We want to be a good rule following citizens. So
I think there's some real visibility concerns there.
Right.
I'm looking at it online. So, Mr. Kim, did you just draw that red line
yes,
there? Does everyone see what Mr. Kim just drew? I see that as marking the fence behind the, what looks like a large cherry tree.
yes, that's correct.
I think we would be protecting that tree, so it would be further back behind the tree line or the tree that you see in the diagram. So that line would be further back if you were to do that. And right now, that side of Hawthorne has see-through fencing, but I understand the concern about the Foxhall, which is the wall that we are talking about. And if Dan, if you have this picture to pull up, that would be easier to see. And I really don't have it.
1 second.
So, Madam Chair, I think I would be prepared to amend this letter to say that we would favor the use of the 6-foot fence, provided that the at the corner of Foxhall and Hawthorne, that that it go off behind the tree and essentially provide visibility for people who are making that turn.
I think that's an excellent idea.
And this picture also shows where the pool would be and where the fence, the see-through fence we're talking about as well, which is similar to, not exactly the same, but similar to a few houses down on Hawthorne, where they have fence all the way up to the sidewalk as well. And across the street, dead across the street from this house, and also one catty corner to this house. Existing homes.
Yeah. Thanks, Mr. Kim. I'm gonna call, there's a person who's had their hand up. Anfu H, maybe Andrew H.
If you could unmute and.
Yeah, sorry, it's Andrew Heimert. Sorry about it.
Hi.
Hi, how are you? So
Heimert.
I wanted to make 2 observations on this. The first is, I think it's pretty common for this ANC to have approved fences in public space. You see it throughout the neighborhood. So I take the point about enclosing the public space, but it seems to me that if the ANC is concerned about that, and it's a legitimate concern, as others have mentioned, it probably ought to think about principles on which it will or won't approve that. I had a neighbor that Commissioner Elkins is familiar with ask for a fence just above a retaining wall along the sidewalk, and that was approved. It was, it meets the requirements of height and openness, but it did enclose public space. So whatever those principles are, probably should be consistently applied. And the other thing, and I know Commissioner Duncan, you said that it was not before the commission explicitly, but I want to reiterate the concerns about a 6-foot retaining wall along Foxhall Road, both for the reasons Mr. Elkins articulated as to safe passage for pedestrians, but also, as I understand the zoning rules, they allow at most a 4-foot retaining wall immediately along sidewalks or between a building restriction line and a sidewalk. So if a 6-foot retaining wall has received zoning approval, there may well be a zoning error by whoever it is now, the Department of Buildings, in approving that. And I think that's something that should be of concern to the ANC, even if it's an independent concern from this specific request.
Thank you. That is very useful information. I have a question for Commissioner Elkins. When is this before the Public Space Committee?
I think the 14th of June, is that correct?
I
No,
believe
that's when we have to when is the hearing?
June 20 something, June 20 something.
Okay,
So we do need to have this.
do you want to comment, Commissioner Joseph?
Sure. Mr. Heimert is part of the Transportation Committee and has been involved in these matters for quite a bit, for quite a while. So what I would propose, Commissioner Allen, you suggested revisions to your letter. I think that those revisions make perfect sense. Also, we're in close touch with Inspector Lunt, who is an inspector for DDOT, and it goes out and looks at questions about illegal construction in the public space. And I think it would make sense, given the very legitimate concerns raised by the neighbors that it's traffic safety, for us to ask Mr. Blunt to come out and take a look at this wall as well. And so those would be two separate actions that the commission would take in response to these issues.
The wall isn't built, is it?
No.
There's no wall there.
There is no wall there.
We want to build the wall.
Ah, okay. Then I would propose a further amendment to the letter, perhaps, is if you're willing to accept it, commenting on the proposed wall.
It's in there.
It's in there.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Great.
May I ask a clarifying question around that, or it's, I guess, a zoning question, and that is there capacity for the ANC to weigh in on things that happen behind the property line?
If they are going before the Board of Zoning Adjustment, if they are asking for some relief.
Right,
then
but as I
we'd be allowed
understood
to
it, they're
weigh
not asking for relief. There's no relief required for the wall because they're behind the property line. The only relief requested is for the fence in the public space. Unless somebody tells me otherwise, maybe I misunderstood.
Well, Mr. Heimert pointed out that perhaps because the wall is more than 4 feet and it's between the sidewalk and a structure, that perhaps it is, and it would. I'm glad.
Okay,
we're-
so even if it's behind the property line, that would apply?
I believe so, but again, I don't have zoning regs in front of me.
Yeah, that was the part that I was looking for confirmation is.
But
I mean,
but also to clarify, DDOT is not zoning, that's Department of Buildings. So it's a whole other department, although when it comes to safety issues, DDOT would be very concerned. Are we ready? I think if there's nobody else who has any questions, I think we're ready to call the question.
I had quite a clarifying question about the 4 foot. I thought for swimming pool, a 6 foot was required because of the safety of the neighbors.
So this is where
I mean,
it gets tricky. It gets tricky. 6 foot wall because of the swimming.
Lower, I'm sorry to speak in between, but you wanted to do lower. The reason we went all the way up, and Danny, you can correct me, is that it was a pool requirement.
But that's not the wall, that's the fence.
No, the wall is gonna be 6 feet too along Foxhall.
But it doesn't,
It's part of the surrounding of the pool. The way they've got it built. The fence runs into the wall goes along the rest of the.
Grading down. So we need to protect that grading down of that property. So the fence had to be 6 foot high in front of the pool. This is where Hawthorne Street is. This is where the question is. I mean, I have a topo, we can share that.
Madam Chairman, I believe the height of the wall that they're proposing to build on private property is not before this commission at this time. It is something that we could bring up with the Department of Buildings to make sure that it's legal. I will take that responsibility on behalf of the commission if you wish. But for the letter today, you're addressing this to the Public Space Committee, and here we should address ourselves only to public space.
Agree. I'm going to call the question.
Can I make an amendment? And maybe this has already been discussed, but have we integrated into the letter the change in the drawing that Mr. Kim made to put the existing tree outside of the fence line?
Yes, that was a friendly amendment that I was suggesting.
Okay, so I think, Chairman, we have to vote on the amendment
It's a
first.
friendly amendment.
Okay,
So we
perfect.
are going to be voting on the letter as amended. to move that wall behind the tree to cut the corner? Okay, all those in favor? All those opposed? All right, 5-1.
Roll call.
Brad, can you call the roll, please?
3D01,
Aye.
3D02,
Aye.
3D04,
Aye.
3D05,
Aye.
3D06,
Aye.
3D07,
No.
The motion passes. Thank you, everyone who attended this meeting. These are very important, and I think that we had some real positive outcomes here with your input. So thank you very much. Next item is 4726 Sedgwick. Motion on the floor is to send a letter of support to the Board of Zoning Adjustment for an addition at 4726 Sedgwick Street Northwest. So I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. This is a property in Spring Valley that has an existing, it sits on an alley, and it has an existing first floor structure that goes along the alley. It's already there, and the property owner wants to make it 2 stories. He's not increasing the footprint of the home, but he is extending this existing structure 2 stories, but it is grandfathering into a minor side setback violation, but it is up against an alley. He received written approval from the neighbor directly across the alley, and he has spoken to other neighbors on the alley. I took a look at the plans, and I am inclined to approve this special exception. It's basically extending an existing zoning setback violation. That's his relief he's asking to make it 2 stories. Are there any questions?
Is there any neighbor opposition to this?
There was no neighbor opposition.
Thank you.
I am going to call the question. All those in favor to send this letter of support? It passes unanimously. Thank you very much. This next public space permit application, motion on the floor is for 4821 Rodman Street, Northwest. Do I have a second? Did someone second it?
Second.
Sorry. This house is going to be a raise and complete rebuild. The existing home has a curved walkway coming up to the house and a curb cut. The new build is going to straighten the walkway to the house, so it'll move the front walkway. There is a slight grade in the property, so he'll have maybe 2 or 3 steps there. The driveway does not change locations, but as it enters about 12 feet into the property, which is still in the public space, it expands slightly to go into a 2-car garage. I have spoken myself to one neighbor. No one seems to have any objection. The house itself will not be in the public space, but some stairs leading up to the house will be in the public space. Are there any questions? All right, all those in favor to send this approval to the public space committee? None opposed, passes unanimously. Thank you very much. This next one is a very, very short resolution for everyone who's still left online. We, ANC3D, we created a survey, and I would like to thank anyone out there who helped me put that together. It's not easy to aggregate comments about the Better Bus Initiative proposed bus lanes in Palisades. It was published yesterday. As of about 3 o'clock this afternoon, we had over 100 people already took the survey. The comments are due June 13th. So my resolution is authorizing narrative writing of our findings plus graphics be transmitted to the Better Bus Initiative. And I all have in here that all of the commissioners will be given a copy of what we send prior to, at least 5 days before we transmit that data. We're encouraging everyone, whether you take the bus or not, I'm going to be making a full court press on the listservs to get as many people taking that as we can. Are there any questions? The motion on the floor is to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? None opposed. Thank
And I would like to thank the chairman for taking this initiative. I know it was a lot of work and I think it will make a big difference. So thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. The next item on the agenda is for 5017 Eskridge Terrace. Is Adi Davalar on?
Yes.
We are going to give him an
Hello.
opportunity.
Yep.
Hello,
I'm Commissioner Duncan. How are you this evening?
I'm good. So the motion on the floor is to transmit a letter to the Public Space Committee that supports their recent action on these properties. Do I have a second?
I second.
For a background for everyone who is here, these homes are on Eskridge Terrace across from Key Elementary School from Dana Place. There are 2 new homes there. Lovely homes. However, they are built very close to the street there, and the street has no sidewalk. The homes are almost built, they're almost complete. And when neighbors and commissioners, when we were walking by, we noticed that the front stoop and the sidewalks were built so close to the road that they would prevent any future sidewalk from going in. We called the inspector from DDOT. He came out, and Mr. Davalar here is the owner of those properties. He met the inspector out there. I want to give him credit for engaging with the ANC. He has indicated that he is in support of a sidewalk in front of his house, and there's going to need to be some modifications. In addition, the home will be, the 2 homes face each other, and they have 2 two-car garages. So there'll be a wider curb cut that they're asking for there for the future homeowners to access those garages. We had spoken to Mr. Yavlar, and I will give you a chance to speak about getting a new drawing to us, and we have been waiting for quite some time. And this letter was drafted in the response to, we haven't seen a drawing yet. And we were under the impression that the Public Space Committee was going to try and do their approvals off the drawings that were submitted in 2019. In addition, ANC in our last meeting got approval to spend $600 for a surveyor to go out there and tell us exactly where the property line is. The property lines on this street are a little bit odd because you have your curb, and then you've got the property line at a setback, but every single property on this street has a building restriction line until we come to the 2 properties where these 2 new homes are. The property line sort of sets back there, and then there's no building restriction line. So we wanted to see exactly where the boundary was. And as it turns out, a portion of the actual home has been built in the public space. We consider this a very, very big deal, and I know the city does too. And we do think that there's going to be some kind of remedy moving forward, but the first thing that we need are some drawings from the owner. So I am now opening this up for a question.
May I ask, what do you expect the drawings to show?
We would like the drawings to show dimensions from the front of the house to the curb. We would like to have dimensions of these new steps, how far they will be from the curb. If the stoop needs to be rearranged, we would like we would like to see all of that laid out. In addition, the drawing that was submitted for the house that I guess we would be calling 5015 Eskridge, that shows the stairs going straight down into the sidewalk, but it has also been moved to the side. We would like to see those drawings accurately reflected there too.
If I may just understand, so the drawings would reflect the remedial changes to the buildings that you see, because the wall test report from 2 or 3 years ago showed in all capital letters that the house was built in public space, and yet it continued to be put up.
I would very much like Mr. Yavalar, when he has a chance to speak. For those of you who are unfamiliar, when you lay your foundation, the Department of Buildings comes out and does a wall test to see if you have built your house where it is supposed to be. And on this wall test, before these homes were built, it showed that one corner of the house, about 3 feet of one corner of one of the homes, was in the public space. Yep, the homes were built anyway. At this time, if no other commissioners have any comments or questions, I would like to turn it over to Mr. Yavalar. And again, I want to commend you for engaging with us. That is, it's much appreciated.
Okay, thank you. Good evening. I met with the commissioners once at the building 2 months ago to address their concerns, and it was like an emergency meeting saying that, hey, the steps are, we have a sidewalk plan and we want to put steps, a sidewalk in front of the building, and that is needed to have 10 feet. Inspector Blunt was there from DDOT to listen to our be there for our concerns. And so back in September of 2019, we went to the Public Space Committee hearing. I didn't personally go. My general contractor went, and we discussed the drawings that we provided. And basically what the drawings indicated was that we were asking for bay projections and the projections of the house to be in public space. And we met with one of my architects spoke with Alan Konarski, I believe, back in September of 2019. He was on the ANC. So the ANC was fully aware back in 2019 of these drawings that we submitted to Public Space Committee. And after that, we fielded any questions and it went to vote at the Public Space Committee. And then we received our approvals with no objections, except for approval with conditions, where 2 of the conditions were to get a tree permit from Yasha, from the Department of Forestry, which we got, and then a driveway easement after we got our approval for our driveway. And we sent that easement to the Department of Transportation as per their request, and uploaded the tops and told them it is uploaded the tops. Please let us know if you need anything else. And they didn't respond to our request at all. And we bugged them for a bit, and we started building, and we got our building permit after all of this work that we did. And once we got our building permit, we called for a wall test, as Commissioner Duncan said, and we got approved for the wall test to continue to build. So I try to do everything by the book. I'm not a developer by any means. I lived in this community probably for 40 years, and it was a property that my dad had, and I just try to develop with the correct professionals to get the correct permits and everything. And being a neighbor and trying to help the ANC, I am willing. We do have enough space to insert to allow for space for a sidewalk in front of the Eskridge house. So I told Commissioner Duncan, like, to help out the community, and as a neighbor, I'm willing to move these steps to the side, which would allow, I think, 12 feet for a tree box and a sidewalk to be built for future, and allow that space. And I'm willing to do that work for the ANC to move the steps.
I have a couple of questions for you. I have seen that drawing in the TOPS permitting system of what you submitted back in 2019 that perhaps Commissioner Karnofsky gave his blessing for. It shows the front of the house 52 feet off the curb.
Well, can I?
It is, so when you say that DDOT approved this walkway and these steps in the public space, I assure you that no one down there approved what has actually been built.
Like I said, I mean, we built these we gave the drawings from the property line. And I'm not an architect by any means.
I have seen your drawings, Mr. Yavalar. It says on the drawings that the house is 52 feet off the curb. I know you've seen it too, because we sat there and.
I've definitely seen it, but I'm saying that the property line is indicated there, saying that we are going into public space. So like I said at our meeting that we had together a few months ago, I'm definitely willing to move these steps to allow for a future sidewalk to be built in this location and to allow that space.
And we are delighted that we are going to have room for a sidewalk there. Let's move forward, because our letter basically says, we support what you have done with your stop work order while we await drawings. Do you have plans to get new drawings?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The drawings are going to reflect the steps moving to the side and giving you guys the new drawings to show you what we discussed at our meeting in front of Inspector Blunt, and allowing for the space for the sidewalk of 10 or more feet to allow for a future sidewalk if the ANC has that planned in the future.
Okay, does anyone have any questions?
Chairman, I have a question.
Yeah.
Based on what Mr. Yavalar said, it's unclear to me if the Public Space Committee approved the homeowner, the builder's appropriation of public space.
So when I don't have the top system in front of me, but when you said that they approved it, when I went in and saw that the notes there was definitely something about the trees from Yasha, the tree protection plan, that's pretty standard. And then there was, I think that they approved your curb cut, but they were asking for additional drawings. And those never came. And that is the reason why that thing was never approved. They never issued a permit.
No, so so the letter that I got from the September 26, 2019 Public Space Committee, it states that number one, the Urban Forestry Division approves any changes required to trees in the public space. So that was the Yasha aspect of that letter. And then the covenant of maintenance, which is obviously, as you guys probably you guys know, is like, since it's a driveway split down the middle with the curb cut, it's the maintenance and responsibility of who's responsible, because it's shared by the two neighbors. And then it says the approval of curb cut and projections only. So those are everything that we got. So they approved all of our curb cuts and our projections in the at the Public Space Committee back in September 27, 2019. And then we proceeded to follow up and say, we met with Yasha, got our permit for the forestry, and then we were going to get our covenant maintenance, which we submitted that onto TOPS. We emailed DDOT, Courtney Williams and Katrina Felder, and said, hey, we have uploaded this document. We have met all the conditions, and then the permit was supposed to be issued. At that time,
it's my understanding from the notes that they were asking for some more information. I mean, it's neither here nor there now.
I have the action form. That's the only information that they were asking for, because it was approved with condition. And then we emailed Mr. Alan Canarsie, who was the ANC member at that time, saying these are the documents that they're asking for. And we did everything by the book. And I think what happened back in DDOT in November of 2019 was, listen, like it was in their system, everything they asked for, we gave them.
Except for you gave them drawings that don't reflect reality.
But
that is the biggest issue that we have.
I'm not an architect. I understand that, but I'm not an architect. But I know that the property line is there, and then these property lines was requested for be in public space, and which was approved by the committee.
Yeah, but I think that the point that Chairman Duncan is trying to make is that if the Public Space Committee was operating in good faith on drawings which show a building 50 feet off the street, and then you build a building 10 feet off the street,
well, 20, but yeah, from the property
Right.
line, yes.
Then that is.
And you
you know,
built some of
we
your,
had-
you
we
built,
had-
you built some of your house, not on your property.
But we got approved for that projection from the property line. That's,
Because your house was 50 feet off the curb.
but it was still in the public space that we got approved for. I mean, I'm trying, look, I'm trying to really like work with everyone here, but like, we got these approvals, we got building permits, we got wall checks. We met with DDOT inspectors while we were building this house. And
Yeah,
they were-
but if the drawings were incorrect, we're not even saying, even beyond fraudulent, right? But just say they're benign neglect and incorrect, then it is your responsibility as a homeowner, whether you are an architect or not, that your drawings are correct in the major aspects. We're not talking about, a 2-foot difference. We're talking about orders of magnitude incorrect.
All right, it is getting late, and I do appreciate you coming, and it does sound like you are moving forward with getting more drawings. And our letter is only asking the public space committee to wait for those drawings. And as soon as it gets into the system, we will be taking it up at the very next meeting, because we know that you have been dead in the water, and that's not good for anybody, neighbors included.
It is what it is. I mean, like, I'm trying my best here, and then we are gonna get updated drawings and provide the steps to the side and follow your requests. And then, but like, it's been a pretty tough time to do that. So we will get, I'll try to get those to you.
Thank you. If there are no more questions, I'm going to call the question. Are all those in favor of sending the letter? Passes unanimously. Again, Mr. Yavalar, thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, no problem. Have a good evening. Thank you.
All right, you too. Sorry about that. All right, moving on. We have some commissioner business. I cannot read this. Commissioner Elkins.
All right, well, this is to approve a trip for all of us except you to New Zealand. And it's only gonna cost about $100,000.
Approved.
But we won't put that to a vote. What I have here, 2 pieces of testimony that I'm asking the commission to decide whether you want to sign on for or not. The first one has to do with case 2225, which is a case in front of the zoning commission to change their regulations for procedures.
I'll say that.
I'm sorry.
Second.
Second. Okay, thank you. This commission has already approved my testimony in general on this topic at an earlier meeting. What I'm asking for is an amendment to my testimony, which I have not yet written, but the basic thrust is 2 new areas which have been brought forth by the Office of the Attorney General, one of which would give us even more time for the ANCs to be able to comment on these proposals that go forward to both the BZA and the zoning commission. And the other one is to say that cases where people disagree with the zoning commission and wish to have a rehearing or a reconsideration, that they be allowed to take that to the zoning commission instead of being forced to go to the court. So those are the 2 changes that I would like to include in my testimony. And I'm asking whether this commission agrees with those positions of the Attorney General, and which I would like us to endorse. If so, I would like to have a vote in favor of that so that my testimony will be on behalf of all of ANC3D. If you decide you do not want to support those, then you've already supported the basic testimony, which is please give us more time to review these matters that come before the zoning commission of the BZA, and I would just provide that testimony to the zoning commission. So the motion is whether you will allow me to say that 3D supports these two additional items from the office of the Attorney General.
Are there any questions? I just would want to do a comment. I know a lot of work goes into this, and I think that these zoning changes need to be adopted, so I will be supporting.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner or Chairperson Duncan, is there a second?
I seconded earlier.
Okay.
Commissioner Joseph seconded. Thank you. All right, all those in favor? Passes unanimously.
Thanks for doing this.
The next item on the agenda is the approval of Commissioner Elkins' testimony on the proposed regulations regarding cannabis. Do you have a motion?
I move that you endorse the testimony which I presented this morning to the to ABCA, which is the Alcohol Beverage and Cannabis Board.
I'll second that.
Basically, Madam Chairman, I would like, if I'm allowed, to give about 3 or 4 minutes of what is really happening with regard to cannabis, because this is going to come before us in the future.
I think that's a good idea.
This regulation essentially is trying to bring the people who now have gifting shops into the regulatory regime. So that everybody who sells cannabis will be legal and be licensed. And one of the provisions that the council has provided is that I testified on at length is that people will be able to smoke cannabis on the premises if they get an endorsement from the board for that, and also be able to have as a separate endorsement a summer garden, which is a open area on private land at their facility in which they could smoke cannabis. And my concern has been with secondhand smoke and whether or not the people who are going to build these facilities are going to build them in such a way that it meets the council's requirement, which is that that smoke not be detectable. So that's the nature of my testimony, and I think the point that I've been trying to make to this morning to the board is they need to be very careful both how those facilities are designed, and secondly, that these summer gardens need to be very judiciously located, because if you have private property residences nearby next door across an alley or whatever, and if you want to use your backyard, you're going to have great difficulty doing it. And in fact, if you want to run your air conditioner, you may be bringing it into your apartment. And for summer gardens, the test is that you have to have, in order to be in violation, you have to be able to smell it inside the apartment with the doors closed and the windows closed, which means in the summer, people have to keep their windows closed and run their air conditioner if they have. So anyway, this is I would like endorsement of my bringing these concerns to the attention of the board, and I also wanted to give that presentation because we're going to have a lot of these applications coming before us, or an opportunity, and whether we think the location is appropriate and whether the equipment which they are putting into the facility is adequate.
Commissioner Simkowitz.
First of all, I'd like to thank Commissioner Elkins for his testimony, and if marijuana was legal under the federal system, I would jump up and down and thank him. He put a lot of time into this. I worked with him on this, as did James Rapace, and I want to give him credit. Mr. Rapace worked with Commissioner Elkins at the EPA, and Mr. Rapace worked with Smoke Free DC, where I worked with him. He is the leading authority in the world on secondhand smoke and the measurement of tobacco and marijuana, how it goes about moving. As Commissioner Elkins said, the only problem that I have is not with Commissioner Elkins' testimony, which I think is outstanding. And again, I would agree with it 100%. but for the fact that marijuana is illegal under the federal system. And I'd like to give an update briefly on the Ippolito Shepherd case, which was here a few months ago, maybe a year ago. As you might have read in the newspaper, Dr. Ippolito Shepherd was suffering some of the same problems that Commissioner Elkins was discussing here. She lived next to a smoker. Smoke was coming in, and she went to Superior Court. And on Monday, the judge ruled in her favor. So this is a serious problem. It's going to happen over and over and over again. But again, I am going to do an amendment that I don't expect will pass. But this is that marijuana is illegal and therefore we can't endorse it in any way. So I ask for a second on that. No second.
You,
So,
no,
so I'll continue. I'm gonna abstain, on this, and I talked to Commissioner Elkins earlier. Just because, again, I think that marijuana is illegal under the federal system, and since it's illegal under the federal system, I don't want to endorse it, but I think that his testimony was outstanding. And thank you.
thank you for those comments. Are there any other questions or comments? I thought it was good too. I sent you my comments on that because all of our lives changed when they stopped letting people smoke in restaurants and bars. It's
And that was thanks
great.
to Smoke Free DC, who I work with.
Thank you. All those in favor? None opposed.
And I abstain.
It passes.
And I abstain.
Oh, yeah, so it's not unanimous, Brad. There were,
Well, it is unanimous.
oh, yes, 5-0, 1 abstention. Thank you.
I didn't vote against it. I just didn't.
Yeah, you abstained. Is there any new business?
Chairman, just a point of order, and I joined the meeting late, so I may have missed. Did you approve the meeting minutes from last month?
No, we usually do that at the end, but we're gonna do that next month because we don't have them.
Okay, okay. I didn't see it on the agenda. That's why I asked. Yeah.
We usually do it at the end, but that will circle back next. Do we have a treasurer's report?
The treasurer's report, because we are mid-quarter, is just that things are status quo. We are caught up to date with some outstanding invoices that had been lagging. We had a few new ones come in for legal and survey expenses. And all is well with OANC.
And we will be having a quarterly report at our July meeting.
At the July meeting, yep, at which point we'll summarize the Q3 activities.
Thank you.
I would like to notice our next meeting is going to be July 5th at 7 p.m. and we will be doing it hybrid. So anyone who's still out there, please come in person. If there's nothing else, I move to adjourn. All those in favor? Meeting is adjourned.